popping up on our phones as well.
Massive
But
tsunami.
the expectation is that another
9.0.
siren will be going off at 5:10.
Only a few
after which
stronger
we'll be hearing
earthquakes have
from
ever been
Honolulu
measured
Mayor
around
Rick
the world.
Blangiardi and city officials here in Honolulu about the response.
Yeah, so of course,
今もういっちゃんカメラマイクにしたんで一応黙りますね。
Yes, so one of our
Okay,
viewers
we're
just said
working out to
strong
get
earthquake, but not a
yeah,
big effect
Stephanie's
in water.
microphone
So I
sorted
think,
out right
by
now
the way,
as we're mapping out
that
this response.
so this
statewide.
earthquake was
Traffic
20
jams,
kilometers deep.
And traffic backups happening
you need
throughout Oahu right now.
earthquakes.
We are
they cause
Honolulu Mayor
tsunamis by
Rick
displacing water.
Blangiardi,
So
getting ready for a podium. And
I don't know enough about it to know what kind of
As we
earthquake
give you a
it
look at the
was.
backup
But
on windward Oahu,
it's
we
not
also saw a
just
similar
the
site
magnitude.
on the
It's
Leeward Coast.
how
Kole
the
Pass
exact
is opened up for
type of
emergency
earthquake and how it
access
moves
at
the
this
land
point.
will
Let's
affect
also
how
give
much
you
water
video
it
from
displaces.
Hilo right now, Hawaii County residents leaving the area, and you could be hearing the sirens over air right now as the second emergency siren warning of the tsunami warning is going off right now.
So the message that we've been hearing from emergency officials is to prepare.
Yeah,
prepare,
so far
prepare,
the
to have a
largest
plan
tsunami
in
waves
place.
in
Do not panic at this
tsunami
time.
observations
As we
in
take
Japan
a
are
look
still
at the
40
situation here
centimeters.
in Kaka'ako, don't wait until the last minute to leave.
I'm
But if
keeping
you
an
and
eye
your
on it.
family do have a plan, meet at a meeting place. Make sure that you have the necessary materials, your medication. Make sure you unplug those sensitive electronics. Also, if you live on a boat or if you have a boat, make sure to tie up that boat properly and take it out to sea.
Hang
So
on one
we
second.
again are hearing these sirens sounding off on cell phones across the state. Of course, Hawaii under a tsunami warning after a powerful magnitude 8.7 earthquake off the east coast of Kamchatka, Russia.
Let's go to Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi at the city's Emergency Operations Center with an update.
ちょっとやっぱりこの河口付近取っときましょうかね。
Well, if you're watching us right now, you're fully aware that the state is under a tsunami alert. That said, what you're doing is the right thing to do. We ask you to pay attention, stay with your media for updates. Here in Oahu tonight, I'm surrounded by a bunch of people who are going to give you some really pertinent information.
No, I
We
don't.
ask that you
Those are
stay
not. I don't
calm.
believe those
If
are all
you're in a
tsunami
low-lying
waves. I
area,
would think those
please
are
get to
normal
high
waves.
ground. You'll hear about our emergency centers.
I don't
that are
know for
open.
sure, but
Randy Collins, our emergency management services director, tell you that.
I haven't
But
heard
we need
reports
people
of
to cooperate
repeated
with each
tsunami.
other. Right now, the roads are full. People trying to move. We ask you to stay calm, cooperate, and get to high ground if at all possible where you are. We promise to give you complete updates. Right now, the expected time of anything that might happen here in Oahu is going to be somewhere around 7:15. We're expecting it to be at Kauai around 7:10. We'll know. We've been told by Civil Defense that when it passes the island of Midway, we'll get a good read as to what we can expect, and that's not scheduled to happen for a while yet. But we promise to keep you updated. Please stay close to your media. Listen. If you are in a safe place, stay there. And if you're not, do something about it. Get to higher ground. So with that, I want to bring up Randy Collins, who's our Emergency Management Services Director. Randy.
ちょうどこの辺もいいですね。ちょっと今ちょうどこの映像撮ってるあたり、この辺キープお願いします。
Good evening. As the mayor indicated, our number one priority is to get people to safety. So get out of the tsunami zones, out of the tsunami inundation areas. Those are clearly marked by the tsunami zone signs that you've seen around that we worked hard in instilling over the past year to make sure that you're aware of where those tsunami zones are. You can also find out more information at www.honolulu.gov/DEM. There you will be able to find all the various types of resources about these tsunami warnings. As the mayor mentioned, our number one priority is life safety. And so right now it's an easy thing. Get away from the beaches, get inland, and get upward. So that's our message right now. I would also tell you that we are working hard with all of the city agencies and other stakeholders to make sure that we are activating the tsunami assembly areas around the Oahu. And we want everyone to, if you do live in an area that's within a tsunami area, first and foremost, go to a friend's house, go to a neighbor's house, go to your workplace, but go inward and upward out of the tsunami area. If you have no other place to go, then go to the tsunami assembly areas that we have activated around Oahu. Would also encourage you to not call 911 for evacuation out of your home. Depend on your friends and family and your neighbors to help you get out of the tsunami zones. 911 services are not for helping to evacuate. Our 911 services are for in danger of life and health services, and so we don't want to inundate the 911 centers. So please make sure that you use all other resources available to you to evacuate out of the tsunami zone and get to those other refuge areas. And again, as a last resort, go to those tsunami assembly areas.
It says
And with that,
8-7 now.
I'm going to turn it over to Ocean Safety for some information about what's happening on the
The
beaches.
new updates, well, they're saying 8-7, and the newest updates from the U.S. Tsunami Warning Center.
Well, good
They
evening
still
again.
have
I
the
guess the
same
tone was running. So
forecast
I want to open up by saying, if you're watching us right now, no doubt
Japan
you understand that we're
and
under a
Hawaii
full
could get
tsunami
raised,
alert
which
here.
is
And
1
so
to
that
2
said,
above the
we
tide
at this
level.
point are taking that most seriously.
And
And our
over
appeal
3
to
feet
you
above the tide level,
is to, if
possible
you're in a
for
low-lying
Ecuador,
area,
Russia,
get
and
yourself
Southeast
safe,
population
get to higher
north
ground.
from Hawaii.
Okay, we ask people to stay
And there's some
calm,
other specifics
cooperate. We know the roads are
But
full out there.
before that,
Our anticipation right now, based on the latest information we have, is that we're a couple of hours away from any potential impact to Hawaii. We're going to get, as I understand it, we'll have a better read once it passes Midway, which should be substantially before then, and we'll be able to pass that on. I've come up here tonight with all the right people here to keep you informed. That's what we want to do, and we will continue to keep you informed. So everybody has power now. You have access to your media outlets. Pay attention, listen. We'll try to help you as much as we possibly can. All of our people are out there doing what
there's
they
a
can to
press
help people, but
conference.
the best thing you can do is to help yourself and get you and your family safe.
Hawaii
If you
governor
can, get
is
to
live
higher
right
ground.
now. The Hawaii
Okay?
governor is live.
So I'm
Let me
going to bring up
put
ocean
this on
safety
the air.
right now.
Thanks. One of our viewers mentioned this.
Hawaii
Governor Josh
Buck Giles from Ocean Safety. Not much to say, but just to reiterate, get to higher ground. Our lifeguard towers right now are closed. We have mobile responders currently giving warnings to people to get away from the beaches and out of the ocean. We've conducted ocean rescue warnings from Diamond Head through Kewalo Basin, as well as on the other sides of the island. But we really need to stress that get to higher ground, get out of those tsunami zones, just be smart and follow what the news is telling us. We will know more information as it comes. Again, we are here to help in before and after anything happens. Thank you very much.
Aloha, good evening. Chief Howell from the Honolulu Fire Department. Just like everyone else said, I'm not going to repeat, but we want everyone to stay safe, evacuate early so you don't put yourself in a tough situation. As far as for our response, we'll do our best to continue services. And at a certain point, our personnel would also have to relocate those low-lying areas. So we came up with a plan to move our resources inland and at a higher elevation. And we're just going to monitor all the reports that continue to come in. And again, try and maintain as much of our response capabilities as long as we can, and not to endanger our staff as well. So I'll hand off to HPD. Thank you.
Hello everyone, Sergeant Dana Suzo from the Honolulu Police Department, Major Events Division. Most everybody said it before me. We'll continue to work with fire, any other emergency management agencies to ensure public safety. If you could rely on one another and utilize your resources as much as possible. And if you need to utilize 911 for concurring emergencies. Thank you.
Hi, Roger Morton, Director of Transportation Services. A little bit about our transit situation. That we are planning to stop operating any trip that was scheduled to start at after 6 p.m.
well,
So
they're
up
having
until
issues
6
with their
p.m.,
broadcast.
we're going to continue to operate trips.
broadcast crew.
Having said that, some of those trips may would not have finished their trip and still be in a possible inundation zone. And so there may
Looks
be
like they had an
detours
issue with
that
the broadcast.
drivers will take people to higher ground
Yes, their live
if
stuff.
they're in danger.
Their broadcast stuff.
If you are
broadcast stuff.
a loved
I'll
one
try to
of
get
somebody
that
that
back.
takes the bus and you haven't heard from them, then I would urge you to try to call them and tell them what's going on with the bus service. We have a lot of people that have language difficulties sometimes, and got to get the word out to your loved ones that after 6 p.m. we're going to suspend any service that starts after that point. For Skyline, we're going to run Skyline until the 6:35 trip from Halava, and that'll be the last Skyline. Now, having said all of that, we're going to be monitoring the situation very closely after the
they're
event.
back. Hawaii is
It's
back now.
possible
They're
that
back.
we will
Hold on.
restore service
Yeah,
sometime
we
in the
can hear them
evening.
again.
Thank
we
you.
can hear Hawaii again. Or no? I don't
So I
know.
want to say it one more
No, we
time.
can't. They're not back.
You can help yourself the best.
Oh, they
We're
are
here
live
to
again.
help
They're
you,
live
but we
again.
need you
They're back
to
again.
help
The
yourself
governor's
as well.
back. All right, let's
We
get
would
the
not be
governor
doing
back
this
to Hawaii.
if this wasn't most serious at this point in time. So please, take this very
No, it's not
seriously.
the governor.
And don't go down to the beach. Don't be looking at waves. Get yourself as high as you possibly can. So with that, if I can answer any questions, we'll be happy to do so. Yes. You know, I would imagine that HPD right now is out there trying to move traffic along to the best of their ability. I know we've gotten some calls that it is horrible and people are in gridlock, and that's, you know, all I could ask is for people to keep their calm, and we'll try to move things along as best we can.
On Kauai, we're urging all to avoid the holiday to allow people to evacuate. And the Kauai County Mayor is not closing the Kauai Bridge. On Oahu, Ikiiki townbound traffic.
Roger.
Yeah, we are stuck in the 93% of our service right now is running late, and most of our assets are not in a position where we could respond at this point. We urge the families to try to, to take advantage and keep their loved ones away if they're in low-lying areas.
Any other questions? Yes.
As you hear the sirens that come in,
Well, I know that they're doing a lot down in Waikiki if they're in hotels, and that each and every property, I think, has got their own plans, if you will. So pay attention. This is real, and it's most serious. And if they happen to be watching, we don't have these events very often, but when we do, they're real and they're serious. So we just ask you to pay attention, do what you've been asked to do, and we're all going to hope for the best. They're real and they're serious. So we just ask you to pay attention and do what you've been asked to do. We'll be back, okay? We'll keep you posted. Anything that we hear that's definitive, that could be, we'll be back. Importance in news, we certainly will provide that. Thank you. It could be of importance in news, we certainly will provide that. Thank you.
although they can respond to other counties, they carry with them a search and rescue capability with an infrared radar system that can see.
And you just heard from emergency officials there. And as we take a look now from Kauai, about the Kauai emergency shelters, we're going to list them off for you. These are areas that you can evacuate to: Kapa'a High School, Kapa'a Middle School, Ele'ele Elementary School, Koloa Library, Kauai Community College, Kalaheo Neighborhood Center, Kilauea Elementary School. Now, these refuge areas will have parking and restroom facilities available. And keep in mind, if you are bringing a pet, make sure you bring a kennel, food, and water for the animal.
And county officials are responding statewide. We just showed you the Kauai emergency shelters on Hawaii County. You have evacuation sites open at Pu'u'eo Community Center, Panaeva Park, Kea'au Armory, Pahoa Neighborhood Facility, Ka'u District Gym, the Na'alehu Community Center, Yano Hall, Kealakehe High School Gym, Waimea Community Center, Hisaoka Gym, and Honoka'a Gym. So a number of sites available for those seeking shelter on Hawaii County, as well as Kauai. And as we just heard, circling back to the news conference with Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi, as well as with city first responders, there's an overarching message of, be prepared, don't panic in this, have a plan. So you leave the inundation areas, get inland, get upward. So the official warning came down just before 3 o'clock our time. And since then, we've seen traffic backups across different parts of the island, across different parts of the state. Roger Morton, City Transportation Director, was saying that bus service will be going on until about 6 o'clock this evening. And then Skyline, the last trip is at 6:35 from Halava. So there has been lead time in this, so there is time for many to take shelter.
Yes, and the emphasis is if you are in a low-lying area to move inward and upward, just as you said, Mark. But what hasn't been said is obviously if you're not in a tsunami zone. There is no need for you to be out on the roads. Again, we are seeing these images just coming into the newsroom right now of the traffic gridlock all across the island. And the emergency officials want to make clear that we want to make sure that we do not congest or overwhelm these roadways unnecessarily. So if you do have a loved one, come up with a plan and make sure that you have a family member. Go ahead and meet them at that area. We want to go now live. We're hearing that a news conference is happening right now with Governor Josh Green, along with other state emergency officials about the tsunami warning. Let's listen in.
Everyone is prepared, everyone is ready for what may come, but there is always some uncertainty about the size of the wave. In about 5 minutes, we'll reconvene a statewide meeting. We will hear an update on the size of the wave, as I said, as it passes through the middle of the Pacific. We'll also be in communication with other states and islands, such as Guam, Sinai, finding out what they have experienced. After the wave is passed, after we're all safe, we will reach out to these other friends of ours across the Pacific to support them in their recovery also.
Mahalo, Governor. Andrew?
From what you shared so far, is any of that based on any ocean readings between Russia and between Midway and Russia?
Yes, there was immediately a response from all of the nearshore buoys. The question was answered almost immediately. Right after the earthquake, it was clear to us that there was going to be a wave. As we have shared, we don't know how large a wave, usually until it passes Midway. And as you can see, it takes 5 to 6 hours to come across the Pacific in this case. That's why we're always postured to first check. We don't want to alarm people unnecessarily. But once we see that there's going to be a wave, we begin our protocol. And usually the protocol results in an initial siren, which you heard, just to kind of wake people up to the severity of the situation, followed by the 3 hours out, 2 hours out, the 1 hour out, and the 30-minute out warnings. At that point, we expect everyone to be fully evacuated, either out of the inundation zones or vertically. People should not, and I will say it one more time, should not, as we have seen in the past, stay around the shoreline or risk their lives just to see what a tsunami looks like. It is not a regular wave. It will actually kill you if you get hit by a tsunami. So you have to be out of that area. Please do not put anyone in a situation where General Logan has to search and find you with a helicopter. It is not likely we will recover you if a tsunami takes you from the shore.
If you're stuck in traffic right now or in the coming hour or so, trying to evacuate, at what point, should you consider, what advice you have to people who are still trying to evacuate at this time and as it gets closer to the 7 o'clock?
I believe everyone should have adequate time to get out of the evacuation zones. There were some accidents on the highway as we were aware coming in. We'll continue to update you, especially based on the size of the wave. Obviously, everyone has to be away from the shoreline. We've been in contact with our tourism authority, Jimmy Tokioka, who's our director of DBED. He's been talking to the hotels. I've been speaking to the hospitals. They are prepared. They've actually activated additional shifts in case there are mass casualties. We are praying that that will not be necessary. If the waves come and go and then we give the all clear, we will be back to fine. We'll be back to normal. We probably will have a lot of debris to clean up. That's where our team will execute kind of the cleanup. There could be some power failures if local poles go down. Be aware of that. There could be some loss of water pressure. That happens sometimes in these circumstances. But once we give the all clear, we will no longer worry about casualties when we'll just be cleaning up. I really think people should have plenty of time given where we are. Some of the traffic was already beginning to abate when we got here at about 4:55.
This formally concludes the presser, and we will stay tuned. We will have more updates in future press conferences. Mahalo.
To a news conference with Governor Josh Green and emergency officials who spoke earlier, re-emphasizing the same plan echoed by Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi, that in a situation like this, we do have some time to prepare, so use that time. This isn't a time to freak out or panic. What we've been seeing is, aside from the traffic jams, some of the crowds at grocery stores, a very measured response statewide.
Yeah, we're even seeing those long lines at the gas pumps as well. But an important thing that was mentioned in the Honolulu press conference with Mayor Blangiardi was about the 93% of handy van services are running late at this time. So if you do have a loved one who is relying on that service, Roger Morton, you just heard, call them up, call your family member up and let them know that it's likely they will not be picked up. Again, he said 93% of handy van services are running late at that time, and he's urging families to please take care of their loved ones if they are relying on that service and if they need to get out.
Yeah, and let's give you just a recap of kind of how this afternoon has unfolded. The initial quake off the far east region of Russia happened about 1:30 this afternoon, was an 8.0. About 20 minutes later, it got updated to an 8.7 magnitude quake, extremely powerful, very deep below the ocean's surface, and then it was later upgraded to an 8.8. The first anticipated arrival is around 7:10, so we're about an hour and a half away. Governor Green was saying that a lot of the traffic on their way in, throughout Honolulu seems to have dissipated, as many have seemed to have found their sites. We're staying with you throughout this entire time. So is our First Alert weather team. Let's send it over to meteorologist Drew Davis with the latest. Drew.
Let's take a look at some of the historical context for this earthquake near Russia. Of course, I'm going to break this down percentage-wise. We've got the tsunamis that have affected Hawaii. 19% come from the west coast of South America, and this is since the 1850s, so it's a large swath of 150 years of data out there. And notice this, the second most, 16% from Kamchatka and the Kuril Islands just off to the east of Russia. Going down, you've got the west coast of North America. That's about 13%. 13% come from Alaska, and then 12% come from New Zealand and Pacific Islands, and it goes down as you're going closer to Indonesia. Well, you may notice about 6% is actually missing from this chart. The rest of the 6% comes from Hawaii. And I do want to talk about, again, some of the historical context from the 16% that come from Kamchatka and the Kuril Islands. In 1952, we had another earthquake off of the same area of Russia, the same fault line that we've been talking about. Over the past couple of weeks, we had a magnitude 7.5 a couple of weekends ago that actually triggered another tsunami watch. Again, we do have that tsunami warning right now. That watch upgraded to a warning around 3 p.m. this afternoon. There were no deaths from that 1952 earthquake in Hawaii, and I'm just reading some of the information that we have directly from NOAA. But the waves caused houses to collide, beached boats, destroyed piers, scoured beaches, and moved road pavement. And here on Hawaii Island, they had wave heights of 4 meters, a little bit over 3 feet, 1 meter on Maui, 9 meters on Oahu, and 3 meters on Kauai. Again, that's that 16% coming from Kamchatka and the Kuril Islands just off of Russia. Again, this is just a little bit more context to show you that it's very common here in Hawaii, at least over the last 150 years, and that's the only data that we have here, that we see these tsunamis moving across the Pacific Ocean and across the open water towards the island chain. For now, I'm going to send it back to Mark and Steph at the desk.
And we just got this in from Hawaiian Airlines. They issued a statement saying that we are monitoring a tsunami warning for the Hawaiian Islands and portions of the state of Alaska and assessing our flight operations. We are holding flight departures to the islands of Hawaiian Islands on Hawaiian Airlines and Alaska Airlines, and as a safety precaution, flights en route to Hawaii are returning to the mainland or diverting as needed. And guests with travel to or from the Hawaiian Islands should check the status of their flight before heading to the airport. So we're going to be monitoring all the impacts here.
Yeah, and this is a statewide transportation response. When you have this much time leading up to when the initial wave is expected to arrive, a lot of the state agencies, a lot of those in the transportation business are, sending out their updates. We heard earlier this afternoon that the Hilo Airport is closed. In regard to harbors, those with the boats and vessels are expected to take them out, away from the harbor to avoid any sort of damage and keeping them tied off into the slips, because heading out into the open ocean is actually beneficial in these types of situations. And then we also heard as well State Department of Transportation officials and the military saying that Kolekole Pass is open for Leeward Coast residents.
Right, and our Mahealani Richardson is standing by with an update on that. She just spoke to military officials and joins us now with the latest. Mahea.
That's right, Steph and Mark. This is in conjunction with the U.S. Army, the U.S. Navy, and state officials that Kolekole Pass linking the west side, particularly in the Lualua Valley area, is now connected to central Oahu and Schofield Barracks. For many, many years, we had heard complaints, especially from those in the windward from West Oahu, rather, that they were trapped and they could not get out if there was an emergency because there is one way in and one way out. And after the Maui wildfires, people were particularly concerned. And so earlier this year, U.S. Army officials and the state had an exercise to rehearse this exact scenario. We just spoke with the U.S. Army Garrison Hawaii spokesperson, and here's what he had to say.
Yes, ma'am. So the U.S. Army, in partnership with the U.S. Navy, the DOT, and HAIMA, have opened up Kolikoli Pass on the leeward side to facilitate evacuations from the west side. Commuters will be able to travel Lualua Naval Road onto Lyman Road and exit in central Oahu.
I'll show you where that is.
Are people using the pass now? Can you give us a sense of what's happening there now?
Yes, so both gates, the Navy and Army gates, have been opened on Kolikoli Pass, and civilian motorists are currently traveling from the Navy side onto the Army side and to central Oahu from the west side.
See the red right there?
It was a long-standing issue to use Kolikoli Pass. I remember a lot of people were anxious about being able to evacuate the west side because there's really only one way in and one way out. And there was an exercise specifically for this earlier this year. What can you tell us about that exercise?
Earlier this year, in January, we partnered with the Navy, HAIMA, DOT, and DEM for an exercise that simulated a wildfire on the west side. So to get vehicles from west side of Oahu to central Oahu using Kolikoli Pass. So that was a proof of concept for something that we're using in a real-life scenario today.
At least during your time with the Army, has Kolikoli Pass been used before for an emergency?
For an actual emergency, this is the first time that I've seen Kolikoli Pass been used for a real-life scenario. We would like to say that the pass is very steep. There are several hazards throughout, so folks that decide to use this evacuation route, be extremely cautious and listen to military and evacuation personnel as you transit that.
You know, most people have not traveled along that pass, so how long does it take?
Right, so the pass technically starts around Lualua Naval Road. So if you turn right there at the Nanakuli McDonald's onto the road, go all the way back, it's very straight. It's mostly 2 lanes until you come across a small bridge, but it is fully paved. There may be some rocks in the road, so again, we just advise people to be extremely cautious while you're going up the pass.
And how long would it take to travel the whole pass?
With no traffic, it takes roughly 15 to 20 minutes to transit the pass. With traffic a little bit slower, it's hard to tell. I would say maybe upwards of 30 minutes or so. But it is the only alternative route if you're stuck in gridlock on Farrington.
Is there anything else that you would like our viewers at Hawaii News Now to know about the military's efforts during this tsunami warning?
I would just want everyone to know that the military is here as a community partner. We also live here in our community. Our families are in the community. So we want everyone to, be safe and get to safety if you are in low-lying areas, and listen for updates on official channels.
Can you tell us any information specifically about your service members and how they might be preparing if they are in low-lying areas?
Right, so we do have a couple of installations on low-lying areas. Pili La'au Army Recreation Center was evacuated about an hour ago, so the guests there have been evacuated from the west side. We also have several thousand guests staying at the Halikoa in Waikiki. So those guests are, to be protected from any potential storm surge, or advised to be roughly the 3rd or 4th floor and higher.
Okay, so the guests at the Halikoa, they're not being evacuated, but they were told to go to the 4th floor or higher.
Right, especially with traffic concerns and that kind of thing. Anyone in a high-rise, the higher the better.
Are you getting any first reports specifically from the Halekoa and just how the situation is in Waikiki?
Okay, here are some.
No specific reports. I did see that there are several folks still on the beach. So I would just really advise folks, take this warning seriously. Your safety should be of utmost concern.
There you go, right there. So let's look at that.
And that is Nathan Wilkes from the U.S. Army Garrison. He's the spokesperson there. Again, Kolekole Pass is open, linking Lualualei area on the west side to Schofield Barracks in central Oahu. That pass was just in an exercise earlier this year, a multi-agency exercise, and it's now being used for real life. Back to you.
Ronnie, we appreciate that report. And standing by live now is Hawaii County Mayor Kimo Alameda. Mayor Alameda, thank you so much for joining us right now. I'm sure you and your administration are definitely monitoring the situation at this hour. Can you tell us what the county is doing to prepare?
Interestingly, this number
right now we're at
is
the
less than it
EOC.
was.
We've activated several hours already, and we got all hands on deck. We got all the departments here. And we're working across jurisdictions, so state, National Guard, Red Cross, our county workers as well. We've been through this before, and this is we're not, we're the island with the disasters, right? So it's like a well-oiled machine. So we're doing really well right now.
Mayor, what can you tell us about the shelters available and the resources there that being provided for those that want to attend the evacuation sites?
Yes, absolutely. We activated all our shelters, and so we're sending out messages already, various means, social media, our website, press release. They know where the shelters are at. We also deployed our teams to make sure that there's water and food, and we're reaching out to our hotels. Those in the low-lying areas. If they need transportation, we have that as well. So we are transporting some folks who need the transportation to our shelters as we speak.
And Mayor Alameda, the alert came out after 1:30 this afternoon. What are you seeing out there on the roads? Are people heeding the warning?
Here are some observations.
Yes, they are. In fact, there is road congestion. And so, my message to the residents is to be patient. It's a warning, so we have time. And be respectful. And we sent out our police officers as well as our firefighters to make sure that the roads are safe, and if we need traffic cops in different areas, we are deploying them as we speak.
What kind of action is being taken as well in regard to the ports? And many have vessels tied up at harbors. What has been the message there?
Well, that's all danger zones, right? So, they know the protocols on our island. They're very familiar with what to do with those vessels. In fact, Pride of America, a big ship, they knew what to do, and so they head out to the sea because it's safer there. And we took on their passengers. We provided them with transportation to our shelter as well. So, like I said, we have protocols in place. We've been there before, and we're just implementing it as we speak.
And Mayor, do you have a message for air travelers, and can you update us on the situation at Hilo Airport at this time?
Sure. So Hilo Airport's closed. Kona Airport's open, and it's in a safe zone, and so they are continuing their flights, is what I'm told. So if you're coming into Hilo or if you're going out of Hilo, it ain't gonna happen.
Hawaii County Mayor Kimo Alameda, a comprehensive response being activated statewide right now. Mayor, thank you very much for joining us. I'm sure we'll be talking with you more throughout the evening as we keep a close watch on this tsunami warning. So shelters are activated. There was a lot of lead-up time to this. Many are heading for higher ground. Speaking of which, we caught up with back here on Oahu. Our very own Billy V caught up with some residents and visitors who headed up to the Tantalus area in Makiki.
Thank you very much. There's a steady stream of cars up here in Tantalus. People just, trying to find a place to go. Maybe they left Waikiki, maybe they left the lower areas, or maybe they're heading on the freeway and they had to go all the way to the west side. And we've been finding that they've been pulling off of the roadway to come here just to stay, have a place to be for a while until things calm down. We know that's not going to be for a while. But once again, Tantalus is busy right now.
I got told by a friend of mine who's over in Florida right now. He heard it before I did, and so he let me know about the alert, and I checked it out and decided to maybe go up mountain for a minute.
What was happening? What were you doing when you first heard the alert on your, I'm guessing, your phone?
Waimanalo Beach, kids were in the water, and then we heard we got the warning, and we immediately left.
Okay, so you guys are up here at Tantalus. What was the thought behind coming up here?
This was the highest point we knew. We came in here yesterday and we were like, instead of going to the hotel, let's just go here. I don't know which boat is safer or not. We couldn't ask anyone.
Well, I was swimming in Ala Moana Beach Park, and I got done and I usually check my phone for any emergencies, yeah, family stuff. So when I saw that, I go, whoa, and I checked with my family. Get out of the water already, because I did my lap, so I was getting ready to eat. So I got on the road and I noticed, traffic is getting crazy. And I live in Makakilo. We're on the hill now. And I was thinking, no way, that H1 is crazy congested right now. And the first thing came up, hey, I haven't been to Tantalus. So I took Punahou, I came up here. And
from Tantalus, Billy V, Hawaii News Now.
Thanks very much, Billy. I'm Ben Gutierrez along with Drew Davis here in the First Alert Weather Center. And just to recap, we are again under a tsunami warning for the entire state of Hawaii after an 8.8 magnitude earthquake struck off the east coast of the Kamchatka Peninsula. The first waves are expected to reach Hawaii at about 7:10 this evening, first for Kauai, then down the rest of the island chain, maybe about 7 minutes later for the island of Oahu, and then continuing downward. All of the emergency operations centers for the counties have been activated, and the people are being told, if you haven't heard so already, to be prepared to evacuate if you need to. But if you don't, if you are not in a tsunami evacuation zone, you should stay where you are. Earlier, we had a lot of traffic because a lot of people were let go at the same time. State workers, county workers, just people basically at work, all being let loose at the same time to try and get home, to try to get their belongings, or at least to, just to be prepared as best they can.
And just to recap again, this is an 8.8 magnitude earthquake earlier today around 1:30 p.m. Hawaii time. It was an 8.0, upgraded about 20 minutes later to an 8.7, and then reevaluated later to the 8.8. I do want to point out something that Ben and I just discovered as we're trying to get the latest information from the Tsunami Warning Center and the USGS. We're going to tsunami.gov, where you can actually look at those bulletins for yourself. And the page is unresponsive. It seems that there's so much traffic. Of course, this is a national news event now. Everybody is watching on the continental United States and across the U.S. They're trying to get into the tsunami.gov website. Of course, everybody is looking for information. And one of the things Ben and I have been talking about today, of course, this is not something to take lightly. This is the warning. We had the watch earlier. We were upgraded very quickly to a warning about an hour after the watch was issued. This is the time to take, not to panic, but to take action. Start moving in towards Melka areas and moving up 4 stories or above if you can, if you're unable to move Melka.
Yeah, this would be, when we talk about we always talk about the vertical evacuation. So 4 stories or above, this would be for high-rise buildings, including hotels, Waikiki, Ko'olina, we're talking Ka'anapali, also maybe even Kalapaki Beach on Kauai, that building there, even though it's kind of like a little bit higher up, but for peace of mind, at least on Kauai, move up to a higher floor. You don't need to evacuate the area. Also, emergency officials and we are telling you, if you don't have to evacuate, don't. Stay home, don't clog up the roads, and the worst thing you can probably do is try and go and take a look-see. There's a live look right now at Coconut Island, Hilo Bay, where we have seen in the past some currents that have been coming in. Earlier we talked about, or the governor during the press conference that he had, talked about how we don't really know how big the waves are necessarily going to be, because we do have the buoys that take the measurements right close to the coastline, right along Kamchatka, right off Kamchatka right off the Aleutian Islands, and then you've got this big, wide open ocean where there's no data.
It's just open ocean in between the peninsula and us here in Hawaii. So we have to get the information from Midway and other Pacific Islands before we can really have an idea. We still have the warning up. It's still very important to take this seriously. I do want to give some stats here. We've had a couple of earthquakes, again, 16% of earthquakes since 1850. So about a little over 150 years of data keeping of tsunamis here in Hawaii. We've had an earthquake in 1923 from the same fault line. That was a magnitude 8.3, so a little bit weaker than what we're seeing out there right now. And it took about
Right
6.5
now,
hours
the water
to arrive
level
to Hawaii.
is
And it cost
about
$20 million in
0.9,
damage
about a
and
foot
killed 1
above
kilo.
what
1952, it
it
caused
would be
another
expected
tsunami,
to be.
a 9.0 magnitude earthquake, a little bit stronger than what we're
Now,
seeing with this one.
I don't
caused
know how that would
$8.94
translate
million
into when
in
it
damage.
actually
So,
gets
of
close
course,
to land.
There is cause for concern, especially when it comes to
Um,
infrastructure and potentially impacting those near
but
coastal areas.
you can
Yeah,
see
and
it
when
go
we're
up.
talking
So
about 8.8, remember that
this
the
is what
Fukushima
the
tsunami
governor of
was
Hawaii said
generated
they
by
will have a better
9.1
idea of
magnitude
what
earthquake.
the
So
wave will be
8.8,
like in
that's
Hawaii
very
when they
close in
see it past
magnitude.
Midway.
It is still a bit weaker because, again, the magnitudes are exponential, but when
No,
you start
it's
getting
it's
into
it's
the upper eights,
it's not. You
the
don't
lower
want
nines
the
in
app.
particular,
You want to know
when
the
you start
important
getting
thing is not
9.2,
the
which I think was
absolute
the
water
Chile
level.
earthquake,
It's how much
definitely,
above the predictions it
it's
is.
something to basically be aware of and to be prepared. Right now, let's head back to the desk with Mark and Steph.
Thank you very much, there, Ben and Drew, for your analysis there. We also
Now,
just
there was
got
a
list
reading
here,
near
and we'll read it
Russia,
off for you
near
of
the
shelters
earthquake in
on
Russia,
Maui. But first,
of
we want to show
3 feet.
you these
Let me
images
show you
just
what
into
some
the
of the other
newsroom
buoy
of
readings
the
have been,
busyness
as we'll
at
keep
the
an eye
gas
on this.
station over
But
in
I'll
Ever
show you.
Beach. You can
I
see
just showed you this.
long lines of people there.
So
You
this
heard
is
from
the
Mayor Blangiardi and other first responders said, please just keep your cool. The roads are congested, but on the later side, we
These are
actually
some
seeing
buoys.
that
Yeah,
traffic
we
is
showed
tapering
you.
off in
These
some
are
areas.
different
Yeah,
dark
in certain
buoys.
areas, I mean, through the
These
thick of the afternoon,
21415,
coinciding with the typical rush hour,
21414, and
there was traffic
21416,
gridlock.
I think
parts
are
of
all
Leeward, Oahu.
closer
We
to
also
the
saw lines in
earthquake.
Leeward,
And there
Oahu,
was a
in
3 foot, a
town. We
0.9
want to pull
foot,
up
and a
this video.
0.6 foot.
This is many flocking to grocery stores to stock up on supplies at Don Quixote. This is kind of what happens in an event like this. We see this with hurricanes. The good thing about tsunamis is that you have typically several hours to prepare, but backups throughout Honolulu County. But we also saw footage from across the state as well. We also have this footage right now. It was an aerial shot of traffic in the heart of Honolulu. Let's pull that up right now. Kind of, you can see just the backup when coinciding with when the warning came down.
That's right, and they have their list with them. Toilet paper, bottled water, make sure you have those important medications, enough food to last a week. And we are going to get this list that we want to show you of shelters that are open right now, Lahaina Luna High School and Kihei Community Center.
And our very own Dylan Ancheta is standing by live on Maui right now with the very latest, and he also spoke with Maui Mayor Richard Bisson. Aloha, Dylan.
Aloha, thank you so much. I want to go over the full list of emergency shelters that are opening here on Maui. The county says Lahaina Luna High School, Kihei Community Center, Velma McWayne Santos Community Center, Hannibal Tavares Community Center, Hana High School, and Molokai High School for Molokai residents. Those are all in the process of being opened and shelters. I spoke to Mayor Bisson about 10 minutes ago, maybe 15 or so, and they said that they are in the process of opening those shelters. They hope to have them open very soon, if not already, and they do encourage people who are in low-lying areas to head over to those shelters. And they are welcoming pets in kennels. They are following the usual guidelines set forth by the American Red Cross for those emergency shelters. But I do want to play a little bit more from my one-on-one with Mayor Bisson. Here's what he said.
Yeah, the main thing we want people to know is there's time for us to be calm in moving to inland and higher land. So we just want people to move out of the tsunami zone areas, the inundation zones. We want them to move inland, go to higher ground, but we don't want them to panic. We don't want them to, have to be rushed. We know the traffic is challenging right now because people are trying to do just that. But we just want the messages, stay calm, work together. There's plenty of time for everyone to move out. We're not expecting the first wave to hit Kauai until 7:10. That's the information we received. We're going to get another update maybe in about 10 minutes from Pacific Tsunami Warning, so we'll get a better idea of how big it is and how fast it's traveling. That's our best estimate. Here on Maui, we want people to know there are going to be shelters open. There's 5 of them. The Lahainaluna High School, the Molokai High School on Molokai, Hana High School, the Wailuku Community Center, and the Kihei Community Center. They'll all be open. They'll be staffed, so people will have a place to go. There'll be places for them to rest, stay while they ride this out, literally, and then bathrooms. We want people to know that their water, especially in all the coastal zones, from Wailuku to Napili, Lahaina, the different coastal areas, that water will be shut off, and that's to prevent any contamination and any destruction of the system. It won't all be shut off at the same time. There's a sort of a rolling shut off. It'll start to shut down. So if people want to start filling up storage containers with water, now would be the time to do that before that gets to their areas. We want people to be aware of what's online, the different alerts that are out there, the sirens, the MEMA alerts. Again, just to take care of each other. That's really the big message. Take care of yourself, your family, our kupuna, and help those that need extra assistance.
Mayor, I want to ask, can you list off some of those specific communities that people should be clearing out of right now? Just earlier, I was by the Queen Kahumanu Shopping Center, and there was still a line of people going in toward the low-lying areas. Can you just list off some areas that people should not be going into?
Yeah, most people know what zones they live in and the inundation zone. We have it online, so people can go. There's also a map at the NOAA, NOAA site. There's also pretty explicit maps. But anywhere that's an inundation zone, the low-lying areas from Waihe'e, Wailuku, Kahului, there's several throughout the island, And what is important for people to know is that this wave will be a wraparound wave. So although it'll come from the west, when it hits, it'll wrap around the island. So all the coastal areas need to be evacuated and head to the highlands. Obviously out in the west side of Maui, all the beach zones, the beach areas, people will know. We just want people to be safe. You might be seeing people go in to get their things to leave and to evacuate. And so, and we're trying to assist with the traffic. We've opened up some roads here on Maui that have been used for our temporary debris sites. So it's from Kuihelani Highway to Veterans Highway or Mokulele, and then from Mokulele up to the Pulehu o Maupio roads. People are already using it now. MPD is monitoring it, so people can cut through what used to be the cane fields and get up to the upcountry homes quicker, instead of having to go through what we all know on Maui to be Hanson Road or Halakala Highway. So there are people that are taking advantage of those routes right now, so we can alleviate, again, the traffic. And again, we're trying our best. People can call 911. They can call the MEMA hotline as well. We have a MEMA hotline, I want to say 270-7825, I believe it is. That's the number that people can call in order to get that information. I do have the number someplace, but sorry, 270-7633. That's our MEMA alert number, 7633. So again, we can assist with what you need, especially if it's evacuation. We want people to give us notice so that we can send a car to get them, or send our paratransit trucks, our MEO, Maui Economic Opportunity vans. We have people making rounds right now trying to get people out of those areas before the waves hit.
And last question, can you talk about some of exactly what you mentioned, but for Maui Police, your EMS, what are they doing right now, and are they, how are their levels? Are they pushed? Is it all hands on deck? I mean, how are they feeling?
Well, this is absolutely all hands on deck, but it's very measured. The Maui Police Department, which always comes through for us in our emergencies, I will say, they're helping us control the traffic. They're helping us control, the evacuations. So right now, it's, we're asking for mandatory evacuations for everybody who's in those low-lying areas. Absolutely, going inland, and we're trying to offer the shelters so people have a place to go besides, family. I should say, here on Maui, Oski Rice Arena also opened their parking area, upcountry, in that Makawao, Olinda area. So anyone in the upcountry area who's looking for a place to park their cars and ride this out, Oski Rice Arena, thank you to those folks for offering their location as well. I'm sure there are other places, neighbors, that are helping each other that I may not be aware of right now. This is the latest information we have, Dylan. We're hoping to get an update in just a few minutes.
Mayor, thank you so much. I appreciate it. So once again, that was Maui County Mayor Richard Bisson providing us the latest on what they are doing to prepare the residents of the Valley Isle to make sure that everyone is safe and out of the tsunami inundation zones. I want to recap those official shelters that he mentioned: Lahaina Luna High School, Kihei Community Center, the Velma McWayne Santos Community Center, the Hannibal Tavares Community Center, along with Hana High School and the Wailuku Community Center. Those are the shelters here on the Valley Isle that are opening or in the process of opening for residents. And on the island of Molokai, we have Molokai High School as well preparing to open. Earlier this afternoon, around 4 o'clock, 4:10, during the sounding of the first emergency siren, well, second I should say, I did see a long line of people that were still going into the low-lying areas of Kahului. We were right outside the Queen Ka'ahumanu Center, and there was traffic back to back. And looking at the maps here, it still looks like there is heavy traffic in those areas. So officials are encouraging people to head to higher ground for those who are in those low-lying areas. But ultimately, again, Mayor Bisson says there are many people who are likely looking out for their neighbors and helping one another, and that's what it's all about here on Maui and across the state. Really, they want everyone to proceed with caution, proceed with aloha, and if you are out on the roads, there is no need to rush because again, there is several hours before we are expected to see the first impacts from this impending tsunami. So wherever you are on the Valley Isle, if you are on the lower areas, make sure to make your way upland. Now, Maui, of course, geographically is very tricky because so many of their communities are coastal communities. And so what we're seeing right now is two sides of the Valley Isle, residents from both sides essentially making their way up to higher ground, whether that's meeting in the center or going up the Mauna. And so we are keeping a very close eye on all of the situation, the happenings here on the Valley Isle, and we'll bring you more details as we get them. Again, Mayor Bisson is inside Maui County's Emergency Operations Center, and they are getting constant updates, and we are learning those updates alongside all of you. Live in Maui, I'll send things back to the studio, guys.
Thank you very much, Dylan. And we are still awaiting a news conference that could begin at any moment, and we'll take you there live. Hawaii emergency management officials are gathering. But right now we want to go to Oahu's North Shore, where we have our Kyle Chinen standing by live. Kyle.
Yeah, that's right, guys. We're here at Sunset Beach here on the North Shore, and it's a very eerie scene right now. It's a ghost town, one of the more popular beaches here on the North Shore, especially during the summer months. We got here at around 5 o'clock, right before sunset, people catching off. Just want to show you the beach right now. It was sunny. It's sunny right now. It was a little bit dark and gray and rainy just a couple of minutes ago. And like I said, it's pretty eerie seeing here a very popular beach that is empty right now during the summer months. And on our way here, it was very, very packed full of cars, bumper to bumper, with people trying to leave the area. First, when we were leaving, or we're heading here from the Kaneohe side, people leaving from Polynesian Cultural Center, Kualoa Ranch, heading that way back to the Kaneohe area and town. And then when we got onto this side, past Kuhuku High School and Intermediate, the line of cars were going this way, heading towards the Haleiwa side. Everyone trying to get away from the shoreline, and that was an encouraging thing to see. Although it was bumper to bumper on the roads, people were trying to get to higher ground, getting away from the beach, and people were practicing their patience. Not a lot of people trying to overtake. They understood the situation, and we passed by stores and different establishments here along the road and on the North Shore, and it was just a ghost town essentially. It looks clear now. A lot of people. I want to show the road. Just about an hour ago, it was at a standstill almost, and now you just see a little bit of local traffic here and there, some trucks driving by as people are preparing for the first wave to hit, which is supposed to hit in about an hour now on Kauai, but here on the North Shore, people are being prepared and staying ready for the chance that a wave hits here on Oahu. Now, excuse me. As you can see, it's clear, it's pretty barren, minimal cars on the road now, people getting to safety and getting out of the shoreline areas here on the North Shore. And as we continue to get updates here from the officials at the state and city level, and we'll keep you guys updated, but for right now it seems that everyone is heeding the warnings from the officials here in the state to stay away from the shoreline and get to higher ground. So that's kind of the scene here, a very quiet and unusual sight for the North Shore here during the summer months. That's the latest here, reporting live from the North Shore. Guys, I'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
Kyle, thank you very much. Yeah, what a image that we saw right there, and also as we saw some of the response vehicles rolling through the region, as we saw earlier this afternoon, some DLNR officers were clearing beachgoers off of coastal areas. Can imagine that was also happening on the North Shore as well. We just got this list from the city of Oahu, what is being called tsunami assembly areas. We're not using the word shelters for Oahu sites, mainly because there are limited services available. So, if you need to be somewhere when the event is happening, these are areas to gather. Here's the list: McKinley High School, Hahaione Valley Neighborhood Park, Waimanalo District Park, New Valley Middle School, Makaha Community Park, Waialua High and Intermediate School, Kailua District Park, and Kaneohe District Park.
Kahuku District Park, Kalakaua District Park, Wilson Community Park, Eva Mahiko District Park, Nanakuli High and Intermediate, Kokohead District Park, Waipahu District Park, and George Fred Wright Wahiawa District Park. And once again, the city is not calling these evacuation centers because services are very limited for residents who need to evacuate and move inland.
Yeah, very limited services right now as we are mapping out the response in anticipation of that first wave just after 7 o'clock. Another siren is expected to go off at about 6:10, so just a few moments from now. We have earlier images from this afternoon of the moment the sirens first happened. This is on the North Shore, as you can see in the middle of some gridlock. Okay, there was no sound on that, but that was when you had residents looking for, just trying to leave the area, low-lying areas, trying to get inward, get upland. So we were about just an hour out from that first expected wave. As we're also showing you Haleiwa right now, I think it's also important to note that on a global stage, we are seeing some effects of this tsunami. Tsunami reported earlier in Russia, which is close to the epicenter of the initial quake itself in the Kamchatka Peninsula, and also tsunami seen at the island of Hokkaido in Japan, reported 1-foot wave. Extent of damage so far, not yet known, but when the tsunami made landfall in Hokkaido, the reports are emerging that it was 1 foot.
And for us here locally, of course, the experts at the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, they're still waiting for more information and for that first passing Midway Atoll to get that first reading, to have more of a better sense in terms of the size of those initial waves that would impact Hawaii. As you said, Mark, 7:10 this evening, the first expected waves to arrive in Hanalei, and then 7:17 this evening for us here on Oahu. We just also got an update on when we could expect that press conference to begin with Hawaii Emergency Management Agency officials. Now they're saying anywhere around 6:15 this evening. So we'll bring that to you live as soon as they become available.
A comprehensive response that we are seeing statewide and also from the individual counties themselves as we show you what the roads look like in Hilo this afternoon. The watch became a warning officially just before 3 o'clock Hawaii time this afternoon. What we've seen are a number of developments, especially in regard to the state's transportation infrastructure, road closures to stay out of the low-lying areas, what we've seen with the harbors, boaters advised to take their vessels out into the open ocean. And then also, too, we want to reiterate that Hawaiian Air released a statement about 5:30 this evening that they are holding flight departures to the islands on Hawaiian Airlines and Alaska Airlines. As a safety precaution, flights en route to Hawaii are returning to the mainland or diverting as needed. So you have, what we're seeing here is you're just keeping a close eye on what's going to be happening and taking the utmost precaution as possible.
Right, and if you're still wondering at this hour if you are indeed in an affected zone, you can always go to the Emergency Management Agency website, and there you can scroll for every single county. You can see the latest maps out there that will outline if you are indeed impacted.
Shelters, evacuation sites, tsunami assembly areas. We've been with you nonstop since the warning happened, since the watch happened at around 1:30 this afternoon. We aren't going anywhere. We are staying with you wall to wall throughout this entire event. Our First Alert Weather team has been doing a tremendous job tracking the very latest updates. Let's send it over to Chief Meteorologist Jennifer Robbins with the very latest. Jen.
Thank you so much, Mark and Steph. A lot of important information right at your fingertips, and you can also get that at hawaiinewsnow.com. And we saw the tsunami warning like we're talking about after 1:30. Now we're approaching that window of time, an hour left. It was anywhere from 5 to 6 hours to get here. Now it is 6:10, expected to come our way at 7:10, so within the hour. Magnitude 8.8, and you can see a lot of energy. The caliber of earthquakes, significant, falling under that 8 to 9 magnitude. Great when you take a look at the severe damage, loss of life. This happens anywhere from about 1 to 10 years. So we are seeing a lot of energy that's happening over the Pacific Ocean, along that fault line, a lot of shaking, as you know. The Earth's plates rub together, causing an underwater earthquake. And we saw the depth that came through, very high in depth. I'm sure you're getting the warnings right now. The earthquake causes a vertical push of seawater that causes the tsunami waves. And with that, as the waves spread into shallow waters, it grows in height. And we're seeing these travel thousands and thousands of miles across the Pacific Ocean. It could travel so fast, if you could think about from point A to point B when you're flying in an airplane, you can see that it takes you so long to travel. Well, these are traveling at 500 miles per hour over the Pacific Ocean, over open waters, and then it gets here within that 6-hour window. So taking a look at history, really interesting when we dive into the tsunami history and their relationship with Hawaii. Hawaii has endured over 106 since 1812. Usually the origin that has really impacted us has been Alaska, Chile, Japan, and Russia. It can cause huge surge of energy to travel across the ocean, as you know. And during the past, the most affected area, let's take a closer look. You can see Hilo gets hit the hardest. And the hardest years were 1946, 1960, and 2011. It's known as the hotspot of tsunamis due to the bay shape. And usually when the wave interacts with the bay shape and how shallow it is, it causes bigger waves to come their way over in Hilo. So very interesting with the dynamics of the topography, the depth of the bay, and the bay shape itself. Kona has suffered damage in 1975 and 2011. And as far as the rest of us, Kauai and Oahu's north and east shores can see some run-up depending on the wave direction, along with Maui County. And this is key on the wave direction. What kind of wave will be coming our way? There's a lot of unknowns as it's traveling over open waters and that far of a distance. But history shows the magnitude of depth between 8 and 9. You can see in 1960, one of the strongest earthquakes on record, it arrived 15 hours later, up to 35 feet, with Hilo receiving a lot of damage there, and we even faced deaths in 1960. Receiving a lot of damage there, and we even faced deaths in 1960. In 2010, the Chile earthquake, magnitude 8.8, really highly depends on that direction. It was only 3 feet. So even though it was a high magnitude earthquake, it was only 3 feet in that rise. In 2011, the Japan earthquake, 9.1 in magnitude, 6 to 7 feet. Lots of property damage, as you know, and that one was one for the history books. Taking a closer look at Russia coast, we were forecasting 3 to 4, and observations jumped to 10 to 13 feet, so on target of that. Japan up to 3 meters is in the forecast, but so far the readings observed was only 1.3. That has been confirmed there. Hawaii expected a little less than an hour from now after 7 o'clock. From 1 to 3 meters, about 3 to 10 feet. Highly depends on the wave direction and how it travels over the open waters. Over in Guam, about the same, 1 to 3 feet, falling anywhere from 3 to 10 feet. So none confirmed yet. We're just waiting on that. We're closing in on that last hour before it comes our way. And I just want to point that the initial surge of energy could be much smaller, maybe about 0.1 to 0.3 meters after 10 o'clock. But once we jump up into that 8 o'clock hour, that's when we could see that big jump and rise as all of that energy catches up and comes to the islands. And this is going to be wraparound energy across the entire island chain that we're seeing. But starting at 7:10 over Hanalei this evening. And it's important to note, even though some areas may not see a whole lot of runoff or coastal flooding, it is going to be very unpredictable with the strong currents. And this has been a concern with a lot of our tsunamis in the past, strong rip currents and the strong currents that will come. So that's why it's important to leave the beaches, not be near waters, not watch from the shorelines, to be at higher grounds, because there's just too much that's unpredictable in all of this. So tsunami warning is up and running, and that is going to be closing in on that hour as we approach 7:10. Mark and Steph?
That's right, Jen. Thank you so much. And we want to go now live. This is a live look at Hanalei Bay on the Garden Isle. And this is where the first tsunami waves will arrive at around 7:10 this evening.
Yeah, that is the first site of expected activity. We are now less than an hour away. After the quake happened around 1:30 our time this afternoon, we are anticipating an update from state and county emergency officials at any moment now. When that happens, we'll be going out to it live, but the first wave is expected to arrive. 7:10, Hanalei is that first location where we could be seeing any type of activity. So as we're keeping a very close eye on this, we have crews at the Emergency Operations Center. We have a crew on Maui. Dylan Acheta was there. We just heard from him. And also we have a crew en route to the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center right now, expecting a new update very shortly.
And of course, our First Alert weather team is also standing by with the very latest. And we want to go now to our Ben Gutierrez and Drew Davis for more insight.
All right, good evening, Steph. Good evening, Mark. Of course, we've been tracking this throughout the entirety of the afternoon. The earthquake happened at around 1:30 p.m. Hawaii time. One of the things, of course, we've been talking about is just absolutely how strong this earthquake is. This is an 8.8, upgraded from an 8.7, which was originally estimated to be around an 8.0. Of course, we don't typically see an 8 in terms of the Richter scale about once a year. We're nearly at that 8-point or the 9-point scale, where we see one of those about roughly one every 10 years. We've been showing this graph a lot today. This is just the overall caliber of the earthquakes, and of course this is on a fault line that's very active just off of Russia. Ben and I have been talking about this since last week. Ben, you were here in the studio covering a tsunami watch for the island chain for a magnitude 7.5 earthquake, which is an energy equivalent to about 1 billion pounds of TNT or explosive. But this one, nearly 1 trillion pounds of TNT. And Ben, what was it like when we had that watch initially and it was taken down about a week ago?
It was there was obviously some concern because during the watch, this is the period of time when officials, Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, the geophysicists, the seismologists are looking at all the data and trying to determine if a tsunami has indeed been generated. The watch basically means that it's a heads up. You're supposed to take, be aware that an earthquake has occurred and a tsunami may have been generated, and then be on the alert for a tsunami advisory, which would tell us that a tsunami is coming, but it won't be destructive, or a tsunami warning, where a destructive tsunami could be possible. We've been talking about, even the officials have been saying we don't know how big the waves are going to be. on the Kamchatka Peninsula, as Jennifer has been talking about, or Japan, parts of Russia. Some of them have been up to maybe 20 feet or thereabouts, 15 feet. It depends on where you are. Some of the data that we've been looking at have been indicating that we might get a tsunami anywhere from maybe 3 to 9 feet, but that is not for certain. What we do know is that this uncertainty means that we need to evacuate nonetheless, because again, there's a distinct lack of data. When you look at the globe, we're in the middle of the Pacific, and basically there's nothing in this large area back here, or over here, that tells us exactly how big a wave is going to be, how big a tsunami is. We've got all the dark buoys that are like right along the coastline, so that'll give us the initial indication. But then when you get to the actual in the middle of the ocean, we have to guess, basically.
We're kind of in just kind of a waiting period right now. Again, we've been reporting all afternoon and all evening that we're waiting to see the data from the Midway Atoll. That's typically our first chance to see the size of a tsunami when it comes from the northwest or comes from the west, like we've seen in 2011 with Japan. We have to wait to see how it propagates across the Pacific Ocean. And we're about at that time where we're expecting to get that data soon. And as soon as we hear from the Midway buoys, we will report that as soon as we can. And now we're within 1 hour. Right now, as of on air, it's 6:20 p.m. The original estimates for the Hanalei arrival of the tsunami, 7:10 p.m. We're within 50 minutes of the arrival, or the estimated arrival. It's not going to be exact, but we're going to be around that time, 7:17 for Oahu, and then continuing down the island chain within the next 20-ish minutes. So again, we've got a lot to watch over the next hour or so, and we still have time. You still have time to prepare. You still have time to go upstairs. Make sure to grab important documents, grab water, non-perishables in case you're stuck for a while, and of course, make sure to take care of your family first and make sure they are aware of the threat.
The other thing to remember is that even though we might not know the size of the wave, again, and just reiterating, this is not a surf wave. This is an entire column of water that goes from the ocean surface down to the bottom of the ocean. And as that ocean bottom starts to get higher and higher, as it gets closer to land, that energy is going to be going up into the, basically, going upward and spreading out. So we could still see very strong currents, even if the wave is not there. Right now, we've got a live press conference to take to you. I think this is over at the LA Emergency Management Agency.
Aloha. We're going to give another quick update here. As everyone has heard several times, a very significant earthquake off of Kamchatka, creating a wave. Important data point, when the wave passed through Midway Atoll, it was in total from peak to trough, trough to peak, 6 feet. That means a 3-foot wave riding on the top of the ocean. And that was the piece of data we got just a few moments ago. We're tracking the wave at several different points. As I said, at Johnson Atoll, we had that wave at 3 feet amplitude. We will also be getting data from Wake Island, and the Aleutians are seeing some waves. And then finally, French Frigate Shoals at 6:33 p.m. we expect more data. Guam will see some waves at 6:57 p.m., but we are still expecting this significant wave. So everyone has to continue to be vigilant. There are a few other things that I need to report.
Look at Moya, man.
As to
Actually
the
explaining to the
evacuation
customer.
that should be maintained absolutely beyond the waves hit on our island shores. We will only give the all clear when we feel there's total safety. We have begun coordination for additional people. The homeless coordination has been ongoing. We're making sure individuals without houses are notified of the tsunami warning and they're being removed from the areas. That coordination is going on all islands. We're working with service providers everywhere. I will say, once again, this is a very serious event. We have Black Hawks activated. We have high water vehicles ready to go. So we will be able to rescue people, but please do not put yourself in harm's way. Make sure you actually evacuate right now. We're going to have another update from everyone soon at 6:50. You'll hear one more alarm. Remember, at 6:40, that's 30 minutes out from when the first wave is expected to hit Kauai, and that will be the last alarm you'll have.
but we will give constant updates. I'm going to turn it over now to General Logan.
Aloha and good evening. Thank you, Governor. So the Hawaii National Guard remains postured as I described earlier. We've placed liaison officers into all the emergency management agencies within all the counties to create a near real-time response capability. We also have additional forces that have been activated. The governor touched on this, but we have high water vehicles, which are those with large tires, big engines that can do a variety of different mission sets, and we have soldiers that are already manning those. We also have additional aircraft placed into an alert capacity with crews that can do a variety of mission sets, which are medevac, search and rescue, and hoist operations to rescue folks and take them to a hospital care facility or a point of care. I want to reiterate something that Governor Green said is we're not out of the woods yet. We're collecting data as the wave or the energy passes through some of the other islands. We're in constant contact with all of our partners, either on the mainland or within here, our state of Hawaii, the greater part of the Department of Defense, and also transmitting data to our National Guard headquarters on the mainland. So I ask everybody to remain vigilant, take this seriously, and wait until you get the all-clear signal, or we reduce the warning to a lower level from either your state or your county official government sources. Thank you very much.
Mahalo Tag. Up next, Hawaii Emergency Management Agency Administrator James Barros.
All right, aloha. As we move this evacuation from those zones, we want to ensure that you're doing it safely and you're not panicking. You have time to get out of the inundation zone. The counties are working their sheltering plan and opening up tsunami assembly areas. So work with your counties, go to your county websites and see what shelters are being opened. The state is posturing that if needed, we can provide additional support post-impact at the shelters. I have opened the line of communication with FEMA, so we're on several calls so far. FEMA's postured to support the state at this time. Thank you.
Mahalo, Administrator Barros. Finally, we will bring up the Director of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism, James Kunane Tokioka.
Mahalo. Aloha. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I will give an update on the visitor industry and what we're doing to the visitors that are here in Hawaii and informing them. I've been in contact with Jerry Gibson from the Hawaii Hotel Alliance and Jeff Wagner. We leaned on them during the Maui wildfire to help us, so we're leaning on them now. And the properties that are along the coastline are being asked to evacuate vertically, 4 floors and above. Some of the people have left the hotels, and the ones that have left the hotels to go to the airport, if they need a place to stay, when the airport is shut down, if it is shut down, then they should call the property that they came from to see if there is still availability at that property so they can go back there. I want to ensure that their friends and family on the mainland understand that there is a plan, and I think we need to give the governor and Administrator Barros and General Logan, big kudos, because there was a lot of training that went on after the wildfires, and this is the perfect opportunity for us to put those training, what we learned in training, into place. So thank you all for that, and be patient with each other. God bless you all.
Mahalo, Director Tokioka. At this time, we will open up for questions from the media, and I will call upon everyone one at a time. And I'm going to start with Ashley from Hawaii Public Radio.
Can you talk about what it means for the 6-foot wave? Can you give some type of, reference point for people as to what that's going to look like?
So the question is asking, can we clarify and kind of give deeper details to what a 6-foot wave means?
I think that's a very important question to clarify. So when we describe this wave, it's probably more accurate to describe it as having an amplitude of 3 feet above its base. When the water pulls back from a tsunami, you have the base drop. That becomes the trough of a wave to a peak, which is higher. That full distance from peak to trough is 6 feet. This would be 3-foot wave riding across the top of the surf. I wanted to remind people, this is not just like a wave comes off the shore, 3-foot wave smacks down on the beach. This is a longitudinal wave with great force driving through the shoreline and into land. That's why we ask people to evacuate very far back. People ask if there was a generic way to describe how far you have to get away from the shoreline. To be absolutely safe, it's at least 4,000 feet. That's the better part, that's 4/5 of a mile, basically. That's why these inundation zones, which you can see on the map, which show red, are not just a few feet off of the shoreline. It is, again, not just a 3-foot wave. It is a forceful wall of water that will move across the shoreline and into the community if we ultimately get hit by this tsunami. We will get extra information as we go. It was described to us that it is impossible to predict until we get closer exactly how large the wave. It could be significantly larger than that, and it also could be smaller. We're aware of that. A little bit of history, just so people know real quickly. In 1946, before we had alarms, on tragically April Fool's Day 1946, the tsunami hit Hilo. It was started by an earthquake that was 8.6. This one is larger. It took 4.5 hours to hit Hawaii. That year we lost 159 loved ones. It was the middle of the day. Another tsunami that came in 1960 that hit Hilo, also there, came from Chile. It was a 9.5 magnitude, which is an extraordinarily large earthquake. That was on May 22nd, 1960. Took out 500 homes. That caused a 35-foot wave. It happened at 1 a.m. in the morning, which is why we lost 61 loved ones that year. So we will not be out of the woods until we come past first the wave that strikes Kauai, and then we'll see where it inundates along the rest of the shoreline. Again, it will not just hit some parts of the island. It should probably spread around the islands. And so you can expect waves everywhere, provided that tsunami does hit as we expect.
Andrew, Honolulu Star Advertiser.
You answered a couple of questions I had already. What about electric utilities? At least Hawaiian Electric says they're coordinating with emergency management folks. Is there a plan for the power companies to preemptively shut off power sometime before the expected arrival time?
So the question is around public utilities and whether or not there will be a shut-off, electricity.
So we are in constant communication with HECO. Right now, the protocol is not for them to shut off, but we're in constant comms with them that if we see it impacting worse than what we anticipate, then we'll ask them to go into a shutdown. But we're having conversations with them.
Also, as it was described to me, we can expect the wave to hit poles, and usually poles will go down. We expect significant debris. If we end up having a 3-foot or larger tsunami come through communities, there are going to be significant amounts of debris that can damage these poles. They will be out in force immediately once they get the all clear. They will also have to wait for the all clear because we can't afford to lose anyone driving along the roads. And we also don't want to send the wrong message. Anyone could be confused by seeing, anyone other than General's team out there. You can expect everyone to stay off the road. But we will do search and rescue throughout.
Lei'ui, KITV4.
Andrew had my question about the electric grid. So my question is, what specific criteria moving forward, whether it be seismic activity, are you guys looking at to lower the threshold of the tsunami warning and going down?
So it's a request to describe sort of the criteria for how we move down from a warning moving forward.
The first part will be the actual progression of the wave. So at 6:50, which is about 17 minutes from now, we'll resume our next meeting. We're probably getting data almost as we speak from Wake Island and then the French frigate shoals. That was expected in this moment. So they'll be giving us some extra wave data. But that first wave will hit around 7:10, and it could take as long as 30 minutes for the waves, is my understanding, to hit other parts of the islands. So we'll be able to give kind of constant updates about where the waves are. As you can imagine, there are going to be people out there communicating on social media. Again, please just stay home. Let the waves ride out, let the energy dissipate, and then we'll be able to give people a full accounting of when the time is to stand down.
again, I'll just reiterate, that, we're going to leave it to the science. And the folks that are at the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center are well-versed and well-experienced in all of these types of activities. They're gathering data, like the governor said, from some of the other land masses and the buoys and the deep ocean sensors. And we're going to rely on them to advise us. I don't anticipate it to be immediate as the waves first start hitting the parts of our state at 7-10 hours. So it may take several hours after that to see that amplification and see it dissipate. But rest assured that immediately upon learning that, we're going to put that information out through a variety of different media, to include the media that we have here today, so that people can try to get their lives and return to normalcy. Thank you.
I'll go to Daryl Huff, Hawaii News Now.
When you talk about a 3-foot wave, how does that compare to the ones that caused the great damage in Hilo? And also, how certain are you about that measurement? Can people look at it and rely on that when they look at, say, a tsunami map? Is there any reason for people to go beyond what the tsunami maps tell them about where they should evacuate?
So lots packed into that question. So it's a question around describing that 3-foot wave, the impact in comparison to past history, which I think the governor shared.
Okay, so the comparative waves, the wave in 1960 when we had the giant earthquake off of Chile was gigantic. It was a 35-foot wave. I mean, that was a total destruction wave. It came and wiped out houses completely. Right now, the first indication we had, the first small crest was actually just 30 centimeters, about 1 foot, and then that was followed ultimately by 6 feet from peak to trough, okay? So that 30 centimeters, I believe, was the peak to trough of initial. Now we had a 6 foot. We continue to get data. It can come in like several kind of waves of water. It usually goes in cycles of about 20 minutes is how they are seeing these, this forceful water come through. This is not, we pray, going to be anywhere near like that tragic tsunami in 1960. And we'll give updated measurements as soon as we hear specifically what the French frigate shoals show. That's going to be helpful. As we hear those data, we'll be able to push some of that out perhaps on social media. We'll come back out again repeatedly throughout. But soon we're going to see the wave. In about 3 minutes, everyone can expect the final siren, which is 6:40, and then we will hopefully see everyone out of harm's way, and we'll begin to tell you how the waves actually hit.
One final question from Daryl.
So given the size of this wave, what is the vulnerable infrastructure other than the electric grid?
So given the size of the wave, what is the vulnerable infrastructure besides the electric grid?
A couple quick things, and then I'll have General come up. I mean, this is about 3 feet, okay? But a wave of water, that means it can move cars, it will throw fences around if it hits, it can dislodge trees. That's why you just can't be out there. The impact is at great speed. Any structure that gets loose and strikes an individual could take them out. And people can drown quite easily with the force of that kind of wave. So again, people have to really distinguish the waves we are accustomed to on the coast every day versus a tsunami. It's a different beast altogether. And of course, if it gets much larger, they do anticipate it could be larger. That's why they get multiple measurements. It's even more dangerous, even more forceful. Houses will be damaged. There will be debris all over the place if we do get a full tsunami.
Yeah, the federal government classifies critical infrastructure into 16 separate categories. About 13 are relevant to the state of Hawaii. One in particular is what we call transportation. It's broken down into either airport highways or harbors. As you know, all of our harbors are at sea level and are vulnerable. We don't know what those impacts are going to be, and we're constantly evaluating those, because not just a tsunami here, but a hurricane could have similar effects. Most of our airports are also near sea level, except for some of the smaller ones. So it's good that we have the Department of Transportation participatory in the update meetings that we're having so they can anticipate what those impacts might be. And then we have plans in place to try to assist to get those back operational as quickly as possible. The governor did talk about many of our road networks are near sea level in our coastal regions and quite possibly to the road itself or all the power lines and all the other infrastructure that goes along with it may be impacted by some type of wave or tsunami system. So we're careful about that. We don't have a compiled list together yet, but in just about every hazard that we have, it's incorporated into our all hazards plan, and we're either going to be directly able to help assist in its recovery, or call in additional assets as necessary.
Expect in one moment the next alarm, so why don't we actually pause now, and we'll come back to you in short order. We should have more data, but if we don't come back to you, just please everyone be very safe, and we'll begin to report on the waves as we get direct observations. Kind of around, we still anticipate 30 minutes from now, around 7:10. Thank you for being safe.
And that was just really good information provided by the governor there and officials about the first measurements that they got from Midway Atoll. The wave measuring 6 feet, but across the ocean 3 feet. And they say that it doesn't sound as large. However, do not be mistaken, because these are tsunami waves, different from a surf wave. They push inland and they also wrap around the island.
Yeah, and emergency officials repeated, several times that, it's impossible to predict. Whatever happens in one location is not an indicator of what will happen here in the islands, as we are about 30 minutes out from the first expected impacts of the wave.
Right now we're hearing that alarm. That is the final alarm that the state is going to issue, signaling that we are just 30 minutes away from the estimated arrival of the first tsunami waves that will arrive in Hanalei on the Garden Isle, on the island of Kauai.
And Governor Green also said that this will be the last siren. So the 6:40 siren that just went off right now, we'll be having more updates from emergency officials. But in the meantime, we do want to go back to our first alert weather team, kind of breaking
waves,
down
I guess,
what
I assume,
Governor
because the
Green
water
was
level is
talking
going
about,
up and
'cause this
down.
is really the
It
first
has
time
not
we've gotten
gotten
some real
bigger,
data
that water level,
in regard to impact on this.
since
So
we
let's
last
send it
checked
over to
before the
Ben
press
Gutierrez at the
conference.
First Alert Weather Center.
Now, our data, maybe there's a different Midway
what the governor just said in terms of
station they were looking at, because the governor said that in their Midway Island measurement, from the top to the bottom of the wave was 6 feet, which meant it was a 3-foot wave. This doesn't look to be 6 feet, but they're probably looking at other data.
Some of the data to you.
But how about, is there a Wake Island buoy?
Second, I'm just going to erase the satellite imagery. Honolulu is there, you can see that. And then we're going to
there a Wake Island
at
buoy?
least some kind of indicator as to where the Midway is approximately, I'll just put it right about here or thereabouts. I've got two that passes, yeah. So let's see, hang on just a second. We're just gonna try and zoom out a little bit.
Just so we can see the labels real quick. Again, Midway Atoll is off to our northwest. That's typically where we see information from approaching tsunamis. And one of the reasons we are a little bit concerned about this is kind of the way that the seafloor works here in Hawaii. Unlike the continents, we don't have a continental shelf really that's right offshore. You don't see very shallow water really quickly. The Hawaiian Islands, of course, are formed volcanically, and they're essentially steep mountains in the ocean. So there's a very steep drop-off into Pacific water. And
if you can come back to the Weather Center for just a second, because I think what we can do is show you a little bit. So here we have the map of the islands, and then farther off in the northwestern Hawaiian Islands, Drew, if you can like zoom out, we're talking about Midway Atoll, which is one of these islands here. And of course, the buoy there is the one that recorded the trough to crest of 6 feet. Now, again, what does that mean? It means that we do have at least a column of water that may be about 3 feet tall. That is in the open ocean because it is still pretty deep. Let's zoom back in on the Hawaiian Islands, and then we can show you a little bit of what we call the bathygraphy, which is like the opposite of topography, which is what you see on land. Bathymetry, rather, is what we have. So if you look at areas like Hanalei Bay, and we'll just go to a close-up, we can see
like right here at Honolulu Bay. It might be a little bit shallower over here, and so that means that the energy is going to start coming in a little bit higher. And we do have another press conference right now. Mayor Rick Blangiardi of Honolulu is about to take the podium.
So I have my eyes out.
You know, have already got to safe places. And the fact is, I would encourage you to keep watching. We'll try to update you as much as we possibly can. One of the things that's developed, we brought our team in, and what Chief Vanek is going to speak to you in a moment, is that at 6:30 tonight, we begin a contraflow of traffic to send everything MoCA. You know, so any one-way streets headed Mackay, you can get on there and head MoCA. So if you know somebody who's stuck in traffic, and we know there's a lot of people still stuck in traffic, if you could place that call. I'll let Chief and Roger Morton, the head of Transportation Services, give you a little bit more detail. But we want to reverse that. We're trying to get everybody out of harm's way. Okay? So again, if you're watching us now, you know somebody who's stuck in traffic. Okay, tell them they've got to be very careful because we can't have the lights. I don't know how many patrol officers we have out there to direct traffic. Be careful. You can go out on a one-way street and head MoCA. So with that, I'd like to bring up Chief Vanek.
There could be all kinds of reasons. So I don't
Thank you, Mayor. So the first thing I'd like to say is just to echo what the Mayor said is make sure you're listening to the first responders. If they're giving you directions, definitely if they're telling you to evacuate, evacuate. If they're giving you directions to drive in a certain direction, follow their directions. The next thing I'd like to ask and tell you is if you don't need to be on the roads, don't be on the roads. If you've arrived at a safe location, like if it's your house, a friend's house, a shelter, or just somewhere safe, stay there.
Let me show you where that is.
And stay there until it's safe. If you don't need to be on the roads, don't be on the roads. Stay there until you get the all clear. And then finally, if you don't need to call 911, don't inundate the 911 system. We have a lot of officers out there. They're responding to emergencies. So if you don't need to call 911, unless of course it's an emergency.
You could have 1 million followers and still not be able to pay your bills.
Over 1 million creators and brands are growing faster, engaging better, and selling more. What about you? Instantly reply to every comment, DM, and story mention. Or let people comment a keyword to automatically receive personalized messages. Turn comments into cash. Sell more products, boost event signups, and crush affiliate sales all on autopilot. Get the most out of Instagram. Try ManyChat for free today.
To facilitate Malcolm Mackay travel, and we're continuing to do that. In addition, HPD dispatch has been getting their officers to give directions right on the street. My message really is we're half an hour out from when we anticipate this wave to hit. If you're on an east-west coastal highway, now is the time to calculate, are you going to be in high ground? And if you're not, if you have any doubts, you need to get up Malka side immediately, because that's where we're going to have a problem is on our coastal highways, on Kamehameha, on Farrington, on other highways around the island. So that's the message that we have is if police on downtown areas are facilitating travel up. It's been a rough day. I know it took a long time for people to get out, but now's the time to get to high ground.
If I get one I have the rights to, I will post it. So about 22
Aloha,
minutes until
Randall Collins with
the
the
Hawaii
Department of Emergency Management would like to reinforce inland and upward.
tsunami activity in
Get
Hawaii
to a safe
is
zone. Get out of the tsunami area and get to a safe area. That is the #1 message. The second message is to stay informed. There is one place to get accurate information, and that is at hnlalert.gov. There's no www, it's just hnlalert.gov in your browser. Not only can you get information there about the tsunami zone areas and where we have activated our tsunami assembly areas, you can sign up and stay informed as we continue to text out information and message information through that application. So hnlalert.gov. Would like to thank the mayor for his leadership. We have enacted or proclaimed a local state of emergency that has opened up all the funding and all the resources and all the decisions that we need to make sure that we can keep people safe. And so with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Ireland.
That says 7:17, but it was 7:10.
Good evening, Jim Ireland, Department of Emergency Services.
So I'm gonna
EMS
leave
has
my clock
had
the
a
way it
really
is.
busy afternoon
This is a
and,
rough
and early
estimate,
evening.
my
I want to
clock.
thank all our
It's based on what
paramedics,
they said at the
dispatchers,
press
and EMTs for just all the hard work that they've done today. We have an emergency plan for this type of scenario. We will stop potentially responding and may not be able to respond into the inundations zones as we get closer to the predicted wave arrival, and that time has already passed. So for emergencies that are in the inundation zone or near the inundation zone, we may or may not be able to respond.
The governor said it could end up being smaller, or bigger than 3 feet, or smaller than 3 feet. That's what the governor
EMS
said.
has had a variety
don't
of
know.
calls today, just like any other day, but we've had, it seems like an excessive amounts of traffic accidents. We had a critical accident up in Laie, another accident in Waialua, as well as Pearl City. So just wanted to echo what the others said as far as just taking your time, drive safely, be careful,
Oh, hold
because
on,
we
is there
don't
a
want to
new
tie up
update here
ambulances
from
and
the
resources for preventable accidents.
I have
like
update,
traffic accidents. So be careful, again, heed
News
the
update.
warnings, get to
News
higher
update
ground now. This is all good
from
advice, but we're really coming in
The
really
U.S.
close now to
Tsunami
the
Warning
predicted
Center.
wave time. So as we get
Or from
closer,
National Weather Service.
again, EMS may or may not be able to respond
Update.
to a call in the inundation zone. CORE, which is also in my department, has been very busy since about 4 o'clock today.
What do they say?
Two coastal areas.
A tsunami warning continues for the state of Hawaii. Measurements of tsunami wave activity. Here you go. Look at this. Midway. Now look, why do they? I'm confused. I'm confused. So they say midway 1 foot. This is so confusing. But they said that was 44 minutes ago, though. They said, or is that, no, that might not be 44 minutes ago. I don't know what per is. Oh, per is period of time from one wave to the next. So maybe that's an old measurement from Midway, because the governor said at Midway they had a 3-foot tsunami. So that might be an old measurement from Midway.
We have power. Please do that. Provide you the information, what Randy said about hnlalert.gov. Absolute source of correct.
A tsunami has been generated that could cause damage along coastlines of all islands in the state of Hawaii.
We're talking about a circumstance.
Each individual wave crest can last. It's a tsunami is a series of long ocean waves. Each individual wave crest can last 5 to 15 minutes or more and extensively flood coastal areas.
We want you to be accurately informed. As you can see from what you heard me say.
All right, they say the estimated time in Hawaii is 7:17. That's what they're saying. 7:17. It's you can't see it at the bottom of that alert from the from. So what should I have on my clock? Because in the press conference they said 7:10. The National Weather Service says 7:17, and that just came out 13 minutes ago. I'm going to go with 7:17. That's what I'm going to go with. 7:17 p.m. Hawaii time. That's literally what it says. The latest update. So,
Miles an hour.
but
And
it's
we
a rough
were not
estimate.
looking at a good situation. Tonight they didn't talk about the speed, except we were being told by the civil defense people this is going to be really bad. Okay, that was then.
But then maybe I should put the earlier.
It turned out we had some damage. The waves came
I
in.
can leave the
they
earlier
came
one
back
because
out,
the
they went
governor
back
says
in.
then nobody
We did
yells
4
at
or
me
5
for putting it
times.
later.
And they kept telling us the next one could be big. We did not get an all clear. for
I can
wave
put the
was
I
supposed to
can
hit
put
us
the
at
earlier one.
3:17 until 11 a.m. the next morning. So we don't know what kind of an evening we're in for, but you want to pay attention. You want
I'll put
accurate
the earlier one
information.
again, but
This
just
could
know
save your life. I
that
promise you,
National
all
Weather
of us
Service says
will do
7:7,
everything we possibly
not
can
7:10.
to help everybody out there. But you also have to help us too. So pay attention there. But you also have to help us too. So pay attention to that. And one last time, okay? If you're anywhere near the water, get out of there. Get to high ground. Okay? Thank you. Any questions? Yeah.
I don't have at the moment a shot. Oh, hold on. What is this?
Well, I think that they want to go to H&L Alert. We'll be talking to people at that.
If I get a live
camera
camera
not watching, they
that
can't
I
watch
can
television.
actually
Maybe
show
they
you
have some kind of
that I have the
reception
rights
there,
to
or to any of
from
the station's websites.
Hawaii,
Stick with
I will
accurate
show it
information,
to you.
and we'll keep keep you folks advised
But I
too,
can't
as to
steal
what
a
people should do.
camera
We're gonna
to
just,
use on my
you know, Lynn, in this situation, we cannot over-communicate. We all know that.
I
We're
don't,
gonna
if
try
I
to do
have
that
one,
as
I'm not,
reliable
I
and
am
as-
not
as
hiding live
a,
cameras for you. I cannot
detailed
steal
way
the
as we
footage.
possibly can. So I know last time, because people did the same exact thing, and that's what we've been encouraging. People didn't come down from the mountain till after sunrise.
But maybe we'll
A
get
lot of
some
people stayed
before
up there.
it,
You wanna
in the
stay
next
until
few
you get
minutes.
told
I'm looking out for
that
it.
it's safe to come down. That's what I would tell people. Wait until you find out it's safe to come down, because as I said earlier, that last time on March 11th, if you remember, that tsunami was in Japan. It was the most televised tsunami ever because it was daytime, cameras everywhere, and it was almost surreal watching what was going on. And so, while I choose not to think about the worst happening, at this point in time, in this hour, I want to be as conservative as we possibly can in the spirit of saving people's lives. So information is very, very important. Okay, we don't know what we're dealing with right now. Within minutes, we probably will, and we'll go from there, and we'll keep you posted. If you're in a safe place, stay there until somebody tells you to leave. Yes, ma'am. Well, we're gonna have to see what the
Guam.
extent of it
Somebody
is. I
asked
think,
about
you know,
Guam.
we've got
Guam
everybody
is
out
not.
there
It's
between
not supposed to
HPD,
get
our
as
fire
big of a
department,
wave
our first
as
responders,
big as the
EMS
tsunami
teams here.
as
You know, we're
Hawaii
gonna be on full alert. I mean, we're gonna try to do everything we possibly can. And you
Yeah,
heard the governor
here's
say
Guam.
the same thing with all services.
Again,
here.
I
We're all
believe
in
they're
this
under an
together in a moment
advisory,
like
not a
this.
warning.
We will do
Guam.
everything we have with
So
the available
it
resources
looks
we
like the
have
wave is hitting.
to respond
the
the way
tsunami
people
is hitting there,
hopefully
starting
would
to,
respond.
because you can see
That's
the
the
water
best I
level
can tell you.
suddenly rise.
Right
there.
now, I'm hoping for
So
the
we'll
best.
keep an eye on
Trying to
Guam.
prepare for the worst. We're hoping for the best. Yes. Yeah, I'll bring up Jim on as far as the tools. Okay, thank you.
Well, from our standpoint in EMS, we have ambulances, ground ambulances, SUVs. So those are our tools. But I think in the earlier press conference from the governor, he talked about his air assets and the National Guard being on standby. And I can't speak for the Honolulu Fire Department, but
waiting
they
to see
also
if I
have
get a
air
live
assets.
shot
So
of
when we are in a
We're
rescue
about-
situation,
Ooh,
we
what
have
happened
seen
here? Oh,
the
I'm sorry.
air
You know what
assets for
happened
lots
here?
of
The
different
clock went
agencies
away.
here and across the country,
About
whether it's
13
National Guard,
minutes
Coast
or
Guard, or the
so,
Fire Department,
13 to 20
be able
minutes
to do rescues where
until
ground
the
vehicles
tsunami
can't
activity
get
is
in.
supposed to start.
So
Are they going to do another
besides
press conference
what
or
we
no?
have available to respond on the ground, there are those air assets for those other agencies, not ours.
Yeah, and I would like to add, I spoke to Admiral Reagan earlier from the Coast Guard, and they've deployed all of their
There's a lot going on right
assets out in the ocean. They're hitting around all the
But
coastlines.
they
and they're
observed
also
there was
gonna
a
be readily
3-foot
available, which is a
wave
great
observed
resource as well
at
to
Midway Island.
complement our other resources. Anybody else, guys? Anybody here? Anything else you want to add? Is there anything else?
I'll go back to Midway in a second.
The question is, can we send our HFD or HPD into the zones that Jim said?
Yeah, people are sending me like links to cameras online. Again, I cannot just steal cameras and put them
You
on
know,
my
our
stream. So I
officers
appreciate
are
people writing
dedicated,
in. The issue
and
is
they're
not that
gonna
I
put
don't know
themselves
where
in
to
danger like
find
they do, every single
online
day.
a shot of Hawaii.
But
The issue is
I'm
that I
gonna tell
can't
you right
just
now,
take
if
it and
there's
steal
a
it and use it
6-foot
on my
wave
channel.
coming at 500 feet per second or whatever it is, I don't think I'd blame them if they don't go rushing into that. But what I will tell you is that our officers are highly dedicated, and as a matter of fact, we've kept back all of
Midway is
our daytime
doing this
officers.
still.
We called
That's the
in
Midway
our nighttime officers early. They're not actually even supposed to start until 9 o'clock, but all of them came in early. So we have way more than 100% working right now, and that just goes to show their commitment. I have full pride that they're all in, working really hard. All of our support units are in. We'll do what we need to do to make
At
sure that we
Earthworks
keep the
Garden
public
Center and
safe.
Supply,
And
our
I
garden
wanna
center
assure
is
you
filled
that,
with eco-friendly
we're
materials and
there
plants
for you to
handpicked to
keep
thrive
the
in
public
Arizona's
safe.
unique climate. We
And
offer
if
everything
you
to
need
make
us,
your
we'll
space
be there.
stunning.
We'll
Earthworks
answer the
Garden
call for
Center
sure.
and Supply. Your garden, our passion.
Hoping Reuters might come through. You never know. You never know.
Yes, just an update on some of the highways. Some of our highway routes have been closed. HPD is enforcing closures on Farrington Highway at Waimea Street, at Fort Weaver Road at North Road.
About 10
no
minutes possibly
Mackay-bound,
until
ocean-bound traffic, and Fort Weaver Road at Papipi Road, no Mackay ocean-bound traffic.
Tsunami activity is supposed to begin
is
in
being
Hawaii
let through
between
at this
10
point.
and
So
17
be on the
minutes.
lookout. There could be other closures that occur as the officers in the field deem necessary. But those are three that we know of that we're just advising the public.
Any other questions? I want to thank you and all the media outlets for staying on this all afternoon like this and continuing to broadcast here. And let's just all hope for the best, okay? You have a big responsibility, and we're here to answer whatever questions, but we need your help too in reaching the people, and I thank you for that. Again, stay away from social media. No false information. Deal with accuracy.
Here's what's going on in
It can make all
Guam
the
right
difference.
now.
Okay, thank you.
Looks like a tsunami has impacted
And now this is a live look
again, I
at
believe they're under an
Hanalei,
advisory,
where
not a
the
warning. So
first
currently in
arrived
Guam,
waves are expected to
Guam, the
arrive,
water
excuse
level
me,
in
at
Guam is currently
7:10.
about
That is less than
0.8
12
feet
minutes out.
Yeah, we're
above
giving you a
the
live look at
predicted
Hanalei
level.
Bay right
See
now,
that?
which is the
water
first
level is
site of any
2.1.
sort of anticipated activity.
Predictions
You
one-
just heard from Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi saying that, you know, even after that we hit that time, we could be in for a long night until that all clear is given. You also heard the emphasized message from emergency officials. You should not be on the roads right now. You should not be in low-lying areas, and do not flood the emergency call system. At this point, you should be at a place where you're safe. You're at an evacuation site. You're at a tsunami assembly area as we kind of wait through and see what this 8.8 magnitude earthquake that originated from Russia earlier this afternoon, 1:30 Hawaii time, what that brings. So again, a live look at Kauai right now. We want to go back to Ben Gutierrez and Drew Davis for their explanation on what we could expect. This is coming off of what we heard from Governor Green getting the first initial readings from the buoy at Midway Atoll. While they do say it's impossible to predict what could be happening here in Hawaii, what you do see at Midway was very newsworthy. What can you tell us, Ben and Drew?
All right, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Steph. Of course, at this time, we're less than 10 minutes out from the potential arrival of the tsunami in Kauai and up near Hanalei. Again, just one last quick look. Of course, we're watching it was a 3-foot wave on top of the ocean reported at Midway Atoll. And of course, the waters get very shallow very quick right off of the Hawaiian Islands. Of course, we don't have a continental shelf around us like the continents do, where they have a large area of shallow water and then just a strict drop off into the deep ocean. It gets very shallow very quickly. We're mountains building up underwater. One last quick look at the Kauai evacuation zones. You can see this behind us. Again, less than 10 minutes away, that's when we're expecting to see the tsunami. It might not be exactly at 7:10, but that's the best prediction right now for the arrival of this tsunami. Just taking a quick look, most of Kauai is in the tsunami evacuation zone, at least all of the coastlines. And the reasoning for that is because of all the Mauka areas, the mountains, it pushes right up against the coastline. You don't have very many areas that are highlighted in yellow right here. That indicates the extreme tsunami evacuation zone. And that's for the worst tsunami possible, the worst possible modeled tsunami. We don't expect that that's going to be the case with this one. But again, we have to take precautions across the entire island. Again, less than 10 minutes out. Ben, what can you tell us about the tsunami? We're watching the Hanalei live cam very closely. We've just taken a look out there. What can you tell us?
Well, basically, when you look at the tsunami evacuation map, obviously places like Hanalei and also West Kauai, where you're looking at that area, there's a very big run-up. And then when you look at East Kauai right now, basically Kapa'a all the way down to Wailua, even down to Hanamaulu, that area there are some points where it is pretty shallow, where it is pretty flat as far as the landmass, but at the same time, places like Hanalei, even Hanalei, as you can see that the tsunami evacuation map is a little bit deeper. It goes further inland. And one point I want to make up too, we've been talking about a wave. We could be talking several waves, because that would be, we've been mentioning the first wave. And so tsunamis generally you don't just have one, you're going to have a bunch of them. And so there is that possibility where we will see waves possibly for several hours. And you can definitely see, as we take a closer look at the island of Kauai evacuation maps, you can definitely see that Hanalei up at the top and also West Kauai, there's a very large area that goes inland, and also on west, or make that East Kauai, places like Wailua, also the Kapa'a area, Anahola, Honolulu, those areas are also within that evacuation zone. Kauai also is older geographically, or geologically rather, and so that means there are larger rivers. And so that also means that you should stay away from any of the waterways that go inland. The Wailua River, for example, is one. Navilivili Harbor is another, where you're going to have some of that energy from the tsunami going further inland because of the fact that it is a wider waterway, and then that will be able to go in. A couple of years ago, we had a smaller tsunami, and we had videos of that actually going up the canal, Kawainui Stream, I believe it is, up in Kailua, where you could see the tsunami wave. It was only about yay high, but you could definitely see something rolling in on the river, headed toward Enchanted Lake. Now, you'll see something on the surface, but at the same time, remember, it goes all the way down to the bottom of the ocean. And so even if the wave isn't that big, there's going to be strong currents. That's the reason why the Coast Guard has ordered evacuations of the harbors, because boats could be pushed around by these currents and could be pushed into piers, could be pulled away from their moorings, could get loose. We saw that in 2011. We saw boats hitting each other, causing major damage to vessels, also causing major damage to harbor infrastructure, and that's why we're seeing all of those boats leaving.
And we're at around 5 minutes out, I believe. It's 7:05, at least on the clocks that we have here in our studio. This is the time where we're watching for potentially water receding. Again, if you're near the beach, of course, go away. Do not stay there to watch the tsunami. This is an incredibly strong event, and we're no stranger to the power of water here in Hawaii. The Rivers Point, that's a great point. All of that water, that energy rushing in, it's going to impact the entire island potentially when it comes to those rushing waters, rushing up the rivers, and of course the coastlines, of course, will be the most impacted. That's it for Ben and I here in the Weather Center. Let's send it over to Chief Meteorologist Jennifer Robbins with more.
Thank you so much. Very good information, gentlemen. We are going to be seeing a lot of action within the next hour. And first, beginning with that receding water and then the rush of energy. So the initial readings that they were talking about in the press conference, 3 feet, lots of forward motion we're talking about. It's almost like a freight train racing across the ocean, initially at speeds of 500 and 550 miles per hour. Once it meets the shallow waters, that's when it slows down to speeds of about 30 miles per hour. Usually I use this graphic when we talk about flooding from rain, but this shows you the power of water and how incredibly powerful water can be and pick up people, just sweep them right off their feet. 1 foot can pick up cars, 2 feet can move SUVs and heavy trucks. So the power of water, especially along those rivers and everything that's meeting along the mountain base, is going to be a big concern, even if it is at 3 feet. So I just wanted to take a close look at the past most affected areas. This is going to be a lot of wraparound energy. That's why we have the tsunami warning for all of the islands. So it doesn't mean we're going to be in the clear for one island or the other, but Hilo does have a history getting hit hard by tsunamis, 1946, 1960, and 2011. It's known as the hot spot for tsunamis due to the bay's shape. It's incredible of how shallow the waters are, and because of the shape of the bay itself, it actually has some of those waves get even bigger along Hilo's side. Also, Kona has suffered damage in 1975 and 2011, and we have been seeing damage with other tsunamis across the western end of the state, particularly over on Kauai, on Oahu, the north and east shores. You can see some run up depending on the wave direction, and that's key, and that's one component we really don't know. Like Ben and Drew were talking about, there's a lot of information that's missing over open waters with the lack of buoy data that's over the open water. So the wave direction is a big player of what kind of wave will be coming our way with these tsunamis. So we are coming close at 7:07 right now. Initial readings will likely be seeing that receding water at first over on Kauai, and then anywhere from 0.1 to 0.3 a possibility. And then that energy, like we're talking about, racing across the entire ocean at speeds of 550 miles per hour. That energy is going to get caught up, and so we could see the biggest of the tsunami surges come in during the 8 o'clock hour. And then it's going to be highly unpredictable throughout the night, especially with those strong currents. And that's why evacuation zones, you must just heed to all of those warnings, especially along the coastline, along the rivers, and along anywhere there is water. So taking a closer look at the readings from tonight, so 3 to 4 meters, that translates to 10 to 13 feet was observed along the Russian coast. We did see in Japan about 1.3 feet. It was up to 3 meters was the forecast. Over in Hawaii, initially we're forecasting 1 to 3. With that Johnson Atoll reading at 3 feet, we could see that energy coming our way around that marker, but it could be even higher, like we're talking about Hilo and the shape of the bay, that could pile up water even more. So that's a big concern after the 7 o'clock hour, and Guam ran anywhere from 1 to 3 meters, which translates to 3 to 10 feet. So historically speaking, we've seen a number of tsunamis like we've been talking about throughout the evening. Over 160 since 1812, the origin, Alaska, Chile, Japan, and Russia. And it can cause a huge surge of energy traveling across the ocean. And like we're talking about this evening, the
Where's
power
the time?
of water is incredible. And you can see the history
Show
is
camera
there.
loop. Here we
Tells a
go.
big story with 1960 magnitude
That's from 9 minutes
9.5
ago.
arrived 15 hours later up to 35 feet.
Shippers that
In
come onto fuel
2010,
recovery
magnitude
achieve 20%
8.1
savings
or
on
8.8.
truckload, 50%
We did see 3
intermodal.
feet, so
and
the
then
direction of the wave
I don't
does
know
play
what
a
I'm
big role in
looking at.
that.
I'm a little
And then
unsure about this
Japan
one.
quake at
Everything
9.1,
I'm confusing
6 to
everybody.
7 feet
I'll take a
with
look
the
at this in a
property
second.
energy. So we're watching the buoy readings very carefully, and the latest information, let's send it back to Mark and Stephanie.
That's it. I was
Thank
on the
you very
clear
much,
day
Jen.
visual
We are
toggle
now
clear
at
day. There it is.
7:10, which
Oh,
is
okay, that's a
exactly
live
when
camera right
the
there.
Pacific Tsunami Warning Center predicted that we would see
For
the
whatever it's
first
worth. That is a
arrival
live
of the
camera looking
tsunami waves
northwest.
generated
I
by the
believe from
powerful
Kauai.
earthquake in Russia. And as we're looking
That was
here,
from
Drew and Ben,
5 minutes ago.
what are you noticing?
So we can at
Way
least
off in
check
the
it
distance.
every
We're talking about way off in the distance there, right around the middle of your screen, right at that point. It looks like there is something happening there as far as like ocean activity. See some white caps. Sunbeam is. There's a little bit of current activity, so you can see there are some currents that are occurring as some of the water starts to flow out. But as far as the actual wave action, Drew and I have been looking at this, and we just see something that appeared off in the distance, right at the edge of that point, where you can see some what looks like white caps. I don't know if that could be like something that is basically artifacts off the camera or whatnot, but off the camera or whatnot. But one thing I'm also looking at very closely is the actual water line, the shoreline there. Not seeing anything. And again, 7:10 was the estimated time of arrival. And so that's, again, as it indicates, it's an estimate. It can be faster, it can be longer. You know, it just kind of depends on what this had to travel through, and also the kind of earthquake that it was, because then it depends on how quickly it was pushed over. But no doubt, it does travel very quickly in the ocean. You know, there's nothing there to basically hold it back. So we're looking again, speed of a jetliner, but at the moment that area of white really hasn't moved an awful lot. So we're not quite sure exactly what is going to be happening, if the tsunami, the first wave, is going to be late. But again, you can see some streaks on the ocean. Those are like rip currents that have developed, and
definitely the tsunami is going to be playing into strong currents. We're watching the water at least start to move in a little bit. Like you said, over near the sunbeam reflecting off of the water there, you can see the direction of the water flowing into the bay. Again, it was 7:10. This is the best prediction for the arrival of the wave. Much like weather models, it's very hard to simulate the entirety of the ocean. So that was the best prediction given by the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center. And again, we're going to keep watching this. If it is delayed out here for Kauai, that also means that it will be delayed as we're going further down the island chain. Again, it does seem like we are seeing some waves moving in. Again, this is a very very active scene where we're trying to watch exactly what's happening.
That's right, and taking us back now to 2011, Ben, I don't know if you remember, but the 9.1 magnitude quake in Japan, it was a very powerful earthquake, and that sent us a tsunami wave as well. And you could definitely, when you do see it on camera, you can definitely tell that that is a tsunami wave. You talk about the receding of the water, and I remember vividly watching Hilo Bay, and you will definitely see that big difference there. As far as right now, though, again, we are just monitoring and looking at the shoreline for any changes there. And again, once again, off in the distance, that sunbeam that you were pointing to, you're also noticing some subtle differences and changes in the water there. No major recession of the water yet, which is a telltale sign that the tsunami wave has arrived.
Sunset is expected at 7:12, so we've still got some daylight. We're just past that. And thank goodness that we still have that light out there to really give us a clearer sense of what is happening. We're going to be staying on this cam at Hanalei right now. This is a live stream overlooking Hanalei Bay with the expected arrival of the first activity of the tsunami generated by the 8.8 quake. We're looking at this. Our first alert weather team is monitoring this shot very closely. Literally an unfolding situation as we're watching the water and kind of paying close attention to what we're seeing here with the conditions.
And again, the water here has to wrap around since Hanalei Bay is on the northern portions of the island. It's coming from the west and northwest. Russia is off to the northwest of the island chain. We've been showing that map of just completely open water. So we have to see a little bit of a wraparound. First it hits the Nepali coast and then starts to move into Hanalei Bay, move down the western and leeward coast of Kauai. So we are going to continue to see how this evolves.
And Drew and Ben, talk about the impact of, I know this earthquake, 8.8 earthquake off the eastern coast of Russia had the depth of 46 miles down. Now, talk about how that plays a role in the strength and power of wave.
Well, usually the deeper an earthquake is centered, the less likely it will cause an earthquake. It will cause a tsunami, rather. However, it kind of depends on the type of earthquake. Drew had explained earlier, if it's a slip, not too bad. If it is a thrust earthquake that goes straight up and that pushes a whole column of water up, that's one of the things that we were seeing in the Thailand earthquake, the devastating, I believe it was 2006 earthquake. Might have been, I might have to check on the date there, but the one that devastated so many places like Indonesia and on Christmas Eve of that year. Right now, Hanalei not really showing anything, but then again, 710 was an estimated late arrival, but then again, remember,
and it
is not just the first one.
7:17, which is when we were expecting the first waves to arrive on Oahu. If we can now switch over to, this is a live look at Honolulu Harbor, where earlier we were also monitoring quite a few reports that boaters, a number of them, and fishing boats were heeding the warning, and we also saw them head out to sea, staying away from the channels, going in water at a depth of 300 feet or greater. And you can see it looks like the harbor is all clear. Even got word that the Coast Guard cutter ship also left the harbor right now. As we take a look at Honolulu Harbor, 7:17, again, the estimated arrival of the first waves here on Oahu.
Yeah, and the ability for these vessels to evacuate is one of the silver linings of an event like this, because you had a 6-hour notice, for the boaters to head out to the open ocean, for residents and visitors to head to different evacuation sites right now. So we're keeping a very close eye. Live look at Honolulu Harbor. It's 7:18 right now. 8 minutes after the first wave was expected, and the epicenter, so to speak, when something like this, the first area of focus is Hanalei Bay on Kauai. We still have some daylight out right now to keep a close eye on this. Now, Drew and Ben and Jen as well, As we're looking at these images here, what should our viewers be paying attention to in regards to the water movement and activity?
Sorry, before you guys answer, can we switch over now to this live look at Waikiki where we might be able to detect more changes in the water here, and you can definitely see a clear view of the coastline and definitely empty there. Earlier shots, right, Mark, when you guys began the coverage right after the tsunami warning, the beaches were crowded. You can see that is not the case right now. They heeded the warning. You know, Mayor Rick Blangiardi said if you're anywhere near the coastline, get out.
And I think it's important to note just generally the ocean conditions right now. We do have a small craft advisory. We have strong trade winds. We also have a rising swell on south-facing shores and east-facing shores. We're seeing wave heights expected today at 3 to 5. And this is wave heights alone, waves that you surf, not the tsunami itself. East-facing shores at 2 to 4. So you could kind of see in some of these shots, there does seem to be some disruption, some rip currents that are happening, strong currents that are happening. So very interesting as we look at these live shots. Since it's not, you know, it's traveled so many miles to get here so far with the epicenter just off the coast of Russia and giving us that 6-hour window to get here, we are likely going to be seeing on a smaller scale of a tsunami, but still a lot of energy. But it's really hard to predict how the wave direction is going to be impacting some of the spots. But like we were talking about, the shape of Hilo Bay itself historically has caused damage in the past, especially for boats and even along the coastal harbors there. So this is something we're going to have to wait and watch throughout the next couple of hours. The initial wave could be small, but then build up throughout the next couple of hours.
One thing that I'm noticing when we have had tsunamis in the past, when we have shown this shot, this live shot of Coconut Island, usually that little channel between the island and the main part of Hawaii Island, you can see a current that is going in and out. We haven't seen that yet in Hilo, obviously. Right now, here's another live look at Hanalei Bay. And whatever was happening off in the distance might have been a camera artifact. Haven't seen it off in the distance anymore, off at the point. But we are still seeing some currents that that still indicates some sort of activity. The shoreline right now, the water has not receded, but there is, again, as Jen mentioned, the possibility that maybe the first wave, not so big, but again, it's a series of waves. We had in 2011, huge waves start coming in and impacting the Kailua Kona area, causing major damage to the shops on Ali'i Drive, and that was like 4 or 5 hours after the initial waves had hit Oahu. And so we're not in the clear yet. It's not a single wave.
That's true. It's not always the first wave that might be the most dangerous, and it is a series of waves. That's a great reminder, Ben. And now we want to turn things over to our reporter, Mahealani Richardson.
Yeah, we had mentioned the vessels leaving harbor areas, heading out into the open ocean. We have great video of some of the vessels leaving the ports. Let's send it over to Maheo with some of the images you've captured. Hi, Maheo.
Thanks a lot, Mark and Steph. And of course, if you need to interrupt me at any moment because we're all keeping an eye on our ports, but I wanted to show you this video that our Casey Lund was shooting from Kaka'ako High Rise, and it was amazing to see all of the ships evacuating. Now, this is because at about 6:47 this evening, the U.S. Coast Guard ordered the evacuation of all commercial vessels from all commercial harbors in the entire state. So you can see the Coast Guard there was also moving. Several boaters were getting out of the way. I called a boating friend, and he had already gotten the word. In fact, many boaters were not waiting for the U.S. Coast Guard to give this official warning, but everyone just certainly getting out of the way. There are 9 commercial harbors on 6 islands. We also saw there was a cruise ship in the Hilo Bay area that loaded their passengers, and they were heading out to sea. Now, I also called Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam to ask about the military ships. They would not say what the military ships are doing, and so we're trying to get official word on what those battleships are doing. But again, the U.S. Coast Guard has ordered the evacuation of all commercial vessels from every harbor in the state of Hawaii. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Mahealani, for that. And so we were monitoring those live cameras, and we still during Mejia's report, we have not noticed anything that sticks out just yet. But just before we went to Mejia, Ben Gutierrez just mentioned what is really important, and that is the reason why, even though this timeline, it has passed, it's not the time to go back to the beach if you're curious, because we have not seen anything noticeable. It is a series of waves. That's what a tsunami wave is. It is not just one, and it is not a surf wave. It wraps around the island.
Yeah, it's not a singular event. This is an hours-long event, right? And we're looking at this, you know, this is something where you're watching very closely. You're looking at the changes in the water activity. Now, as the sun has gone down already, who knows how much this shot is going to change, what we'll be able to see right now as we're staying on our Hanalei cam. We are constantly refreshing, making sure it is the most up-to-date image and the most accurate representation of Hanalei Bay. As the reports have come down, as the updates have come down, Hanalei emerged as kind of the first site that was going to be seeing any sort of activity.
We want to go live now to our live cam on Maui, and this is the coastline there, and you can see, I don't know, are you noticing any differences out there, Ben?
Not just yet. It kind of looks normal, but again, we still have some of those streaks of flatter water off in the districts, again, indicative of some currents that are going on. You know, the people who surf, watermen, waterwomen, those who use the ocean a lot are very familiar with those streaks and look for them, because those are the things that will indicate that could get you into trouble if you get caught in it. But nothing that I see. Jen, do you see anything?
It's really hard to tell from this vantage point, but it does seem like stronger currents are occurring. At the same time, I think it's important to note that we do have high tide that's peaking right now. So there is a rise in water overall and a lot of movement over the water on top of the expected arrival of the tsunami. So a lot of moving parts. It's very dynamic over the Pacific Ocean right now.
One thing that we have had that we haven't really been able to share with you is that the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center has been putting out, or receiving rather, some data as far as the wave heights. And so Wake Island got a 0.7-foot wave that was recorded at the buoy there. Midway, 1 feet. That's not the that's basically the amplitude. That's basically the regular. That's not trough to crest. That is the ocean, the regular ocean surface, and then added to that, 1 foot is the wave height. Highest one we've got is one of the Dart buoys, which had a 3-foot wave out in the open ocean. This is closer to Kamchatka. I'm trying to figure out which exact buoy that it is, but it is Dart 21416. There are a couple of buoys that are kind of like out in the area. I've got just so you know what I'm doing, I'm kind of like looking at the map, trying to figure out which one is 21416. And this is probably one of the ones that is pretty, 21416 with a 3-foot amplitude is the one that is closest to the earthquake itself. So that one recorded a 3-foot wave out in the open ocean. The other ones are a little bit smaller. Back to some of the wave heights. There's about 1.1 feet in Japan. 2 other Dart buoys that are out there, 1.5 and 1.4. 0.6 feet and 0.9 feet. And so there is a wave out there. It might not be that big, but again, even if it's not that big, there's still currents.
I know one of the buoys that they were trying to get more information on was the one in Guam at 657, Ben. Do you see any data generated at that buoy?
Oh, is that Midway?
Guam.
Guam. I don't have Guam on this list, but I'll look it up.
Okay.
And see if I can look it up for you.
We do want to take a look at one of the reasons, of course, why we were watching Midway Atoll so closely is because it is kind of the first warning when we get a tsunami coming from the west or northwest like this. Let's actually take a look at some of the observed water levels. If we can bring up graphics 12 or max 2 real quick, you can see this very clearly. This is over it seems like last 24 hours. The blue line, that's the actual prediction for where the water level was going to be. The water level is in red, and you can see as we're going into today, as the tsunami wave is passing, the tsunami waves I should rather say, is passing the atoll buoy. You've got this jump up, you've got this jump down, you've got this jump up, you've got this jump down. Again, this is just indicative of how many different waves are going to be potentially moving in. Of course, it looks very different out there. It might look very calm on the camera, but again, Ben and I have been talking about how Hawaii is kind of in a very unique circumstance when it comes to our seafloor, our seafloor topography. Our waters get very deep very, very fast. So when this wave, this column of water is potentially moving in, it is going to grow very fast as it reaches the seafloor and grows quickly towards the coast. We get to the deep ocean pretty quickly here in the island chain. We don't have a continental shelf around us like the rest of the continents do. And of course, on that graphic that we were looking at, you can very clearly see the jump in the buoy, jump up, jump down, jump up. And again, that's multiple waves. It's not just one wave.
Is that an indicator on how strong the energy is from?
It absolutely can be, especially if we were seeing a much stronger, like much higher and much lower troughs and crests from the waves. Again, the buoy is on the top of the water. As the wave is troughing, so it's going down to the bottom, the buoy goes down. And so you're seeing it jump. This is the height in feet. If you let's bring up Max 2 again, graphics 12, so you can see what we have out there. Again, this is on the y-axis. This is the height in feet. You're seeing this jump between two to just below -1 feet below the average. Very quickly. This is a very quick jump.
Drew, something I want to jump back to is when we heard earlier from Governor Green, he was talking about the activity with the buoy at Midway.
Yes.
And so can you clear up for us and give us kind of like a direct line explanation? So he said it's measured at 6 foot at the buoy. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? What's happening at the ocean surface?
So, to the best of my understanding, and Ben, if I say this incorrectly, please correct me. 6 feet is what he's talking about between the trough and the crest of the wave. So it's 6 feet from the top of how tall it is, how tall the buoy goes up, to how low the buoy goes down in the water. So when we're seeing that, he talked about that 3 foot number, that is 3 feet above the typical water level or the tide level at that time. You can even see the tides in the beginning of this chart here. You've got high tide around 8, and then as you're going into even further, you've got low tide. You can see the up and down, and then you see this jump indicative of the tsunami waves.
We want to show you the waves that were just the first waves to arrive on the coast of Japan here. And gentlemen, if you could describe what we are seeing here. This was shortly after the powerful earthquake off the eastern coast of Russia.
Yeah, it looks like I'm going to assume that the ocean is on the right, or it might be a jetty. Oh, there we go. That's a better view. All right, this is basically classic tsunami wave action because it's coming in from the open ocean, and then you can see that very, very disturbed, kind of a wall of water that's coming in and overtaking, for example, the seawall there. You see the smaller waves, those are probably the normal waves that are, just basically every day, but you can see how that big area of white, that white water that pushes in, definitely, that's a tsunami. It's a slightly large one. It's not huge by any means, but it is a tsunami wave because you can see just how much energy that it has basically generated and basically pushing in. And so the waves, the little ones you see on the beach just above, basically in the center there, those are regular waves, but tsunami waves, those are definitely been coming in for Japan. Again, it's a little closer to where the epicenter of this earthquake was. But right now, as we take another look at the Hanalei camera, we're not seeing an awful lot. We're still seeing a little bit of the current action, and it seems a little bit flat, close to the area. All right, Pacific Tsunami Warning Center is about to hold a press conference with the latest information. Let's go live there with the latest.
Coming in at Hanalei Bay, not so big, maybe about 1.5 feet above normal sea level, and then the signal was dropping to below normal sea level when I left a minute ago. But that's just the first part of the wave, and we know from what we observed at Midway, it was actually the third wave at Midway was the largest. So we've got some time to wait here at Hanalei, which was the first place it arrived, and of course it is moving down the island chain. So we hadn't seen anything on any other gauges as of yet, but we know it's coming. So we're always hopeful it won't be too bad, but anticipating from our models that yes, we are going to have a significant tsunami going across our islands and arriving on all the coasts. We monitor about 15 sea level gauges across the state, so we will have more reports later, and of course our news channels will also probably be telling us what they're seeing in places where they can safely observe the coast. So please stay out away from the coast. I know you've all evacuated, so continue to stay evacuated. And the instructions ultimately on when it's safe to go back will come from the state and county emergency management agencies. But we've got a ways to go. It's probably going to be several hours before we may even be able to lower the warning here in Hawaii to advisory level when waves go down, and probably not at least until tomorrow morning before we're able to completely cancel the warning. And right now most of us are still waiting, and we are waiting to see just how big it is going to get across the state. So stay safe, everyone.
Given that the third wave was the biggest for Midway, are you expecting the same here in the islands of Hawaii? And what's the interval between waves?
So the interval between waves can be 10 to 20 minutes typically, from one wave crest to the next wave crest. And we don't know exactly, that Midway it was the third wave doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the third wave. Here the wave pattern gets very complicated as the wave crosses the state, because those tsunami waves reflect off of islands, and they wrap around islands, and they interact with each other. So at every location it can be a different wave. But the threat will definitely go on for probably several hours.
Dr. McCurry, if you could kind of encapsulate everything again with regards to what are you looking for right now? I know you said we're still not clear, but what are the specific elements that you are really tracking to see what's that next data point that you can release?
So we're pretty much done with forecasting the tsunami at this point. We are just reacting. So of course our center has responsibilities across the whole Pacific. So we are continuing to send messages to other countries around the Pacific. But our main responsibility is here in Hawaii, and so at this point we're more or less just monitoring the situation to try to determine when we could lower the alert level and ultimately when we can cancel.
The last time that you folks, I guess, were activated in this capacity, was that back in 2011 during the Japan earthquake? And how are the situations different? Because it's about the same direction of where it's coming from.
Yeah, 2011 was certainly the last significant tsunami we experienced here in Hawaii. But we actually handle many tsunami events in the Pacific every year, because earthquakes in the lower magnitude 7 range are pretty frequent, maybe about 10 a year in the Pacific, and almost all of them generate some kind of smallish. A year in the Pacific, and almost all of them generate some kind of smallish tsunami, but we don't normally hear about it. But sure, yeah, the Japan tsunami was the last significant tsunami, and in some ways it's similar, but every tsunami is unique in certain ways. The way the source behaves affects the tsunami, and crossing the bathymetry in the Pacific, the waves get focused and defocused in different ways, and so that's why we need numerical models to help us predict what might happen on our coast.
I know you were expecting 3 to 10. Now here we are, and we're more in the reaction phase. But can you revisit that prediction of up to 10 foot?
Yeah, sure. So the main thing we use to constrain our models are these deep ocean gauges that we support in the Northwest Pacific. Well, we support them all across the Pacific, but the ones for this event are the ones in the Northwest West Pacific, and they're out in deep water. They measure the tsunami without interference from reflections on the coast, which you have with a normal tide gauge that's in a harbor. And so our models try to match the signals that are seen on those deep ocean gauges, and if we can match them, then we know we've created the right kind of wave. And so, of course, in the beginning, we only have a reading on one gauge, and later on it's 2, 3, 4 gauges. And so we keep iterating with these models. But even from the get-go, from the very beginning, the forecast was pretty consistent, even with more of this data telling us that, yeah, Hawaii had this threat. And for the coastline in Hawaii, there's another part of this model that actually brings the synthetic wave up onto the coast in a few, maybe about a dozen places around our state. And so some of those models did say that we would have roughly 10 feet above normal sea level. So that's what we've been going on, and it's been pretty consistent.
And when will you update us again?
I guess I can take your advice on when you'd like an update. I think I should probably come down maybe in another half an hour or so, because we should have more readings from across the state. Okay. And then I can give you another update.
What sort of conversations will you be having for the next few hours?
Well, mostly we will just trying to see if the readings we're getting are consistent with our model, and thinking about the other places around the Pacific that we're advising at this time.
What places are the dozens of places that could see up to 10 feet?
Well, certainly Hawaii has certain areas that in the past typically get pretty big amplitudes, and that's Hanalei Bay, it's Haleiwa on Oahu, it's Kahului on Maui, and it's Hilo on the Big Island. And so